imprisoned by the Sultan Alpha. Snow drifted in wide, lazy spirals over the ragged rooftops of Frosthaven, the main settlement of the Northern Kingdom pack, but the flakes did nothing to gentle the hunger that burned in Sophia's stomach. Dawn light was thin and cold, leaking through cracked shutters as she rose from her straw pallet in the servants' loft, rubbing stiff fingers together until feeling returned. Frost crept along the inside of the warped window, a lacy reminder that spring never truly reached this far north. Below, the kennels were already alive with snarls and laughter. Warriors boasted about last night's hunt while apprentices hauled fresh-killed hare to the smokehouse. Sophia hurried through the narrow corridors, unseen, carrying a dented basin of wash water. The stone under her bare soles stung like ice, and every step echoed her place in this world, wolfless, worthless, required to serve but never belong. "Move faster, ghost girl," snapped Karen, an Omega overseer whose narrow eyes held permanent contempt. He blocked the doorway, arms folded across a thick wool tunic. His wolf's voice overlapped his own in a low growl Sophia couldn't fully hear, but packmates around them reacted, proof of the bond she lacked. She lowered her head and slipped past, water sloshing against the basin's rim. Inside the main hall, the smell of roasted root vegetables mingled with wood smoke. Warriors lounged on benches, some half in fur, claws resting on the table as easily as knives. They barely spared Sophia a glance until Rurik, a junior fighter with a cruel smile, stuck a boot out. She staggered, catching herself before the basin spilled. "Careful, runt," Rurik said, amber eyes gleaming. His wolf voice rumbled silk-soft for those who could hear it. "You might drown in your own bathwater." Laughter rippled along the benches. Sophia forced her shoulders straight, set the basin at the washing station, and began scrubbing wooden bowls that were still greasy from last night. Soap stung her cracked knuckles. Overhead rafters creaked beneath the weight of hanging venison. Voices drifted through the bond lines, private conversations between human and wolf that she could never enter. Sometimes she caught a name or a hissed reprimand when a wolf grew too loud. Mostly it was a hum beyond walls she could not breach, reminding her of everything missing inside her chest. Pack law said every pup's wolf surfaced by 15 winters. Sophia had turned 18 last moon with nothing but silence. A handful of pups scurried through the hall, chasing each other in partial shift, claws skittering on stone. One paused to stare at her. "Why doesn't she have a wolf, Papa?" the child asked a guard. "Because fate forgot her," the guard answered, not unkindly, but loud enough. His own wolf snorted in agreement. Sophia's cheeks burned as she bent lower over the basin. Fate forgot me, or shielded me, she thought. She tried to imagine what her wolf might feel like, whether it would be fierce or gentle, but the idea slipped away like breath on glass. When chores paused at midday, she stole a moment outside. The courtyard was an expanse of trodden snow surrounded by palisade walls. Pines towered beyond, their branches weighed down by white. Sophia tilted her face to the sky, letting snowflakes melt on her lashes. Somewhere beyond those trees lay freedom, but she had no way to claim it. "Daydreaming again?" asked Elder Maeva, shuffling toward her with a basket of herbs. The old healer was one of few who offered kindness. Her silver hair framed a lined face, eyes bright as winter stars. Sophia offered a shy smile. "Just catching the quiet, Elder." "Quiet can be dangerous," Maeva said, lowering her voice. "Wolves sense what grows in stillness. Stay sharp, cub." Cub. The word warmed Sophia more than the wool cloak she lacked. She helped Maeva carry the basket to the infirmary, ignoring the ache in her arms. Inside, medicinal scents of pine resin and dried juniper masked the heavier odor of old wounds. Sophia arranged jars while Maeva crushed herbs. "Your aura trembles," Maeva murmured as if speaking to herself, like something cocooned. Sophia stilled. "I don't understand." "Perhaps you will when the moon deems it time." The elder patted her shoulder. "The world turns quickly, child. Keep your heart ready. The uneasy flutter in Sophia's belly followed her into the evening. Supper meant more work, pouring stew, wiping tables, fetching ale. Karen cursed her clumsiness when she failed to see his outstretched leg and slammed into a bench. Pain lanced her hip, but she clenched her teeth and said nothing. The nights were always longest when the moon was thin. She finally crawled into the loft after midnight. The other servant girls snored softly. Sophia lay awake, watching breath frost in the air above her lips. Something moved inside her. No voice, no words, just a pulse, faint as a heartbeat in the earth. She pressed a hand to her sternum. Nothing. She exhaled, closed her eyes, and dreamed of running beneath green leaves she had never seen. Darkness had barely begun to lift when angry horns shattered the dawn. Sophia jerked upright. Warriors in the main hall were already grabbing weapons. Commanding growls echoed through the corridors, rattling dust from beams. She stumbled downward, heart pounding. Through the half-open gates, she saw shapes emerging from the tree line. Hundreds of them, banners of black and crimson snapping in the storm wind. "Southern marauders," someone shouted, "to arms." A roar of shifting bodies answered. Pelts tore through skin. Limbs lengthened into furred power. Sophia pressed herself against a wall as the pack surged outside. The cold air tasted of iron and fear. She darted to the infirmary, remembering training Maeva had given her. Bandages, salves, fresh water. She gathered what she could. Outside, the clash began. Steel meeting claw, yelps cutting the wind. Through cracks in the log wall, she glimpsed monstrous wolves wearing southern armor plates etched with moon crescents. Their eyes burned with desert fire. She gasped as one northern warrior was hurled aside, landing twisted in blood-soaked snow. Sophia rushed to him. The man's human form flickered beneath fur as he bled from a torn abdomen. "Hold still," she whispered, pressing cloth to the wound. He groaned, eyes glazed. "Wolfless, I should run," he muttered. "I can't leave you." Another crash. A gate splintered inward. Southern soldiers flooded the yard, blades curved like scimitars flashing. Sophia dragged the wounded man behind a trough. Snow sprayed as paws churned. For one breath, the world became a blur of fur and red. "Stay low," Sophia said, but the warrior had already fallen unconscious. She lifted a broken spear for defense, hands shaking. A shadow loomed. A southern fighter in partial shift, face half wolf, teeth dripping crimson, stared at her. Surprise crossed his eyes, seeing a girl with no wolf holding a spear. Then a mocking grin. He lunged. Sophia braced for death. A blur of white intercepted the attacker. Alpha Calder of the northern pack, massive and silver-furred, slammed the southern wolf away. His voice boomed into pack mind links Sophia could not hear. The courtyard filled with renewed defiance, but numbers favored the invaders. The northern line buckled. Sophia sheltered the wounded, heart hammering. All around, snow turned pink. Eventually, the defenders were forced into retreat. Captains barked surrender. Sophia watched Alpha Calder, bleeding heavily, kneel before a towering figure walking through the shattered gate. The newcomer was man-shaped, clad in dark leather adorned with silver thread. He moved with lethal grace, every step deliberate. Shoulder-length ebony hair framed a stark, handsome face. His golden eyes missed nothing. Where he walked, northern warriors lowered their gazes. Sophia didn't need introductions to know Sultan Arslan. He surveyed the ruined yard. A hush fell as though the very wind feared him. His gaze brushed across prisoners, tools, bodies. When it reached Sophia, time locked. Heat speared through her so sudden she nearly gasped. His nostrils flared. Arslan's wolf spoke across whatever invisible currents linked bonded souls. Voices around Sophia hushed, sensing the private exchange inside their sultan. She sensed none of it, only the way his eyes narrowed, as if reading a language written on her skin. Then the moment snapped. He turned aside, issuing orders in a dialect thick with desert consonants. Southern soldiers began binding captives. Sophia set her jaw, trying to aid the fallen warrior again, but rough hands seized her arms. "This one moves," growled a guard. Thick iron shackles closed around her wrists. Someone yanked her to her feet. She caught sight of Maeva across the yard, bruised but alive. The elder met her gaze with a silent blessing before a soldier shoved her aside. Chains connected Sophia to a line of prisoners. Snowflakes melted on her lashes. Pain radiated from her wrists where metal pinched flesh. Sultan Arslan stepped toward them, his shadow long. He paused before each captive, assessing. When he reached Sophia, he stopped. Silence stretched. "Name," he said. His voice was deep, like distant thunder rolling over sand. "Sophia," she answered, surprising herself with steadiness. He looked her up and down. Torn tunic, raw hands, bare feet blue with cold. Disgust flickered in his golden eyes. "Wolfless," he muttered. Behind those eyes something else raged, confusion, conflict. His wolf's presence was palpable even to her, a pressure in the air, a storm cloud crackling. She felt it circle her, scenting, questioning, then snarling. Arslan's jaw tightened. "Useless spoils," he said aloud, waving for the guard to move her along. Yet as she passed, she caught a low growl not directed at her, but at the Sultan himself. "Look again." Arslan's eyes widened a fraction, lips curling as if bitten. He spun away. Sophia marched painfully toward waiting wagons. The wounded warrior she had tried to save was already dead. She swallowed grief, stepping over his limp hand. They were herded into open-topped carts. Chains rattled. Sophia sat between two elderly shifters whose wolves whimpered audibly in distress. Night came swift, gravid with snow. Torches dotted the column of Southern soldiers as they began the journey south. Sophia hugged her knees, the iron biting her skin. Cold settled into her marrow. Around her, captive wolves muttered internally to their other halves, sharing fear, shame, anger. She heard none of it. She had only thoughts and a strange spark beating against her ribs, stronger now, as though distance from home had woken something. "I am not empty," she told herself, though nothing answered. She closed her eyes to the sound of distant howls. Torchlight flickered across Sultan Arslan at the head of the line. He rode a black stallion, posture rigid. Occasionally, his head turned toward the prisoner cart as though magnetized, then away as though scorched. The world blurred into a long frozen trail of hoofbeats and breath. Sophia's last memory before sleep was of the moon peeking through clouds, pale and watchful. She dreamed again. A forest bathed in firelight, a shadow of a wolf pacing just beyond sight, silver dust glowing on its muzzle. It didn't speak, yet its eyes, ancient and feral, held hers, until the dream broke into splinters of dawn. Dawn found the column winding through a pass where jagged cliffs speared the sky. Frosthaven's valley was lost behind them, replaced by wind-carved stone and silence. The prisoners shivered under thin cloaks seized from their own homes. Sophia's thoughts wandered in half-sleep until a guard halted the cart to distribute waterskins. He pressed the spout to her lips. Meltwater tasted of iron from the vessel, but eased the ache in her throat. "Drink slow," muttered the guard, a broad-shouldered southerner whose charcoal-striped wolf flickered in his eyes. "Sultan doesn't want cargo dead." "Spare me the courtesy," Sophia rasped. "I'm empty, remember?" The guard's brows rose. "Empty but not quiet, eh?" He moved on, chuckling. Beside her, the elder shifter whispered, "Child, save your strength. Their tongue is swords." Sophia managed a nod. "What is your name?" "Thora," the woman answered. "My wolf is Risi. She wants to tear free, but chains of silver burn." Thora lifted her shackled wrists, red welts beneath the metal. "I hear her crying." Sophia glanced at her own manacles. They were plain iron. Silver was wasted on someone without a wolf. Bitterness pricked her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Do not be sorry for what you cannot change," Thora said. "Be ready for what you can." Later that day, a snowstorm rolled over the peaks, forcing the caravan to make camp in a ravine. Prisoners were tethered to a central post while soldiers erected canvas shelters. Fires sprouted, orange against slate skies. The scent of spiced venison carried on the air, stirring Sophia's belly. She huddled with Thora and several others, trying to steal warmth. Some northern shifters growled threats under their breath, but fear eroded bravado. No one shifted. Silver chains forbade it. A scuffle broke out when a wounded youth begged for extra water. A southern guard drew his blade, but a single word from across the camp halted him. Enough. Sultan Arslan approached. Snow hissed beneath his boots. He surveyed the bound captives, gaze impassive. Then it landed on Sophia again, as though pulled by invisible wire. Sophia stared back despite a rush of dread. Wind snapped his dark cloak around tall shoulders. For a moment she felt as though the storm bent around him, obeying his will. Arslan addressed the guard without looking away from her. Treat them with necessary care. No deaths tonight. The guard bowed and retreated. Arslan stepped closer to Sophia's group. Gold eyes flicked over Thora's bleeding wrists, and he motioned to an attendant. Silver keys clicked. The old woman's chains loosened a notch. Relief washed over her face. Arslan's gaze returned to Sophia. Words hovered on his lips but did not emerge. She sensed the battle inside him. Curiosity, revulsion, something hotter. Finally he spoke, voice so quiet she leaned forward to catch it. What drives a wolfless girl to stand in a war zone? Sophia swallowed. Someone had to try. Wolves or not, we all bleed. Around them, listening soldiers murmured at her boldness. Arslan's eyes sharpened. His wolf prowled just behind that stare, restless. Courage, he said, or stupidity? Often the same, she replied before caution could silence her. An unexpected crack of amusement touched his mouth. Gone in an instant. He turned on his heel and strode away. Conversation resumed only after his shadow left the firelight. Thora let out a trembling breath. You faced the Sultan as though he were any wolf. Sophia flexed numb fingers. Maybe that's why I'm still alive. Night deepened. Guards rotated. Snow fell in fine sheets, burying footprints. Sophia could not sleep. She watched flames writhe, heard distant howls of roaming scouts. Her thoughts returned to Arslan's question, what drives a wolfless girl? The answer was simple. Hope, fragile but stubborn. Sometime past midnight, the prisoners stirred as a low, haunting melody drifted through camp, southern flute music, mournful as desert wind at dusk. It came from a small pavilion near Arslan's tent. Wolves went silent to listen. The tune spoke of loss, vast dunes, stars like burning pearls. Sophia felt tears sting her eyes without knowing why. Within that song, another pulse thudded in her chest, deeper than blood, older than speech. The flicker she had sensed for years beat harder, matching the music's rhythm. Her breath caught. For a heartbeat, she smelled warm sand, spice, and something electric like storm-ridden sky. The sensation vanished, leaving her shaking. Did you feel that? She whispered. Thora tilted her head. What, child? Nothing. Sophia hugged her knees, confused and afraid to hope. She stared at the pavilion where the flute played, wondering what manner of man Sultan Arslan truly was. That grief and power could exist in the same breath. Morning arrived pale and bitter. Soldiers extinguished fires, packed tents. Chains clinked as prisoners were hauled to their feet. Sophia's shoulders ached from cold, yet she noticed a humming in her bones now, persistent as sunrise. During a brief rest at a frozen stream, Rurik, the warrior who had taunted her, was dragged to the water to clean his wound. He eyed Sophia with surprise. You live, he said. So do you, she answered, glancing at the stitched gash on his thigh. I heard you stood firm when they came, he muttered, almost grudging. Maybe there's wolf in you after all. She gave a small, weary smile. Maybe. A guard prodded them onward. The march continued. As the sun reached its zenith, Sophia stumbled on a hidden rock. She fell hard, chains rattling. A southern soldier hissed and kicked snow over her, but before he could strike again, a warning growl rolled from the forefront. The man froze, eyes darting to Arslan, who sat mounted on a dark warhorse, staring back at him with frigid disdain. The soldier lowered his hand. Sophia pushed to her feet, bewildered by the silent protection. She glanced at the Sultan, who turned away as if the moment had never been. That evening they reached the first southern outpost, timber palisades crowned with metal braziers. The prisoners were herded into a long barrack. Straw pallets lined the floor. Chains remained, but individual shackles were replaced with a single length linking ankles to an iron ring in the center. Guards delivered bowls of thin stew. Sophia helped distribute portions, earning soft thanks from Thora and others. After eating, she huddled near the door where cold air slipped through cracks. Across the barrack, Rurik rubbed his shoulder where silver had scorched during the battle. His wolf, visible through the haze of bond lines, grumbled. Rurik's eyes unfocused briefly as he replied internally. Sophia watched, yearning for a voice of her own. Pain flared unexpectedly behind her ribs, sharp and fleeting. She sucked in breath. The room spun. Distantly, she heard wolves howl in their minds at the moonrise. The pain ebbed, replaced by warmth. Not empty, she thought again, something is there. The barrack settled into uneasy sleep. Guards patrolled outside. Lanterns cast slats of light across rough walls. Sophia lay awake long after others snored. She imagined her mother's face, long forgotten, and a lullaby about the moon carrying secrets. Tears slipped down her cheeks. When at last drowsiness claimed her, she dreamed not of forests, but of a vast palace of white stone under a burning sun. Silks fluttered, fountains spilled turquoise water, and a wolf with a silver nose waited at the foot of a domed hall. It stared at her with eyes like starlight reflected in ink. In the dream she stepped forward, reaching, and the vision shattered into a spray of sand. She woke at dawn, heart racing, the echo of the wolf's gaze etched behind her eyelids. Morning light slanted through the gaps in the barrack roof, gilding the rising breath of prisoners as they stirred. The southern guards moved among them, unlocking the central ring, a link at a time. Chains rattled like ill-tuned chimes, a harsh summons to the road. Sophia rubbed sleep from gritty eyes and pushed stiff limbs upright. Every muscle protested, yet the strange warmth beneath her ribs lingered, easing the worst aches. Outside, frost glittered on trampled snow. The stockade gate yawned open, revealing a path that descended toward lowland forest. Far beyond, the sky blushed apricot, promising a world Sophia had never seen. Thora touched her elbow. Southlands grow warmer with every league, the old shifter said. Keep breathing slow so thin air doesn't dizzy you. Sophia nodded and offered her portion of stale bread to a younger captive, a girl no older than 12, whose wolf whimpered at the sight of food. The child's hollow cheeks brightened as she accepted the crust. Rurik, limping on his bound thigh, caught the exchange and gave Sophia a skeptical look. You think kindness stacks like shield? He muttered. It stacks like memories, she answered. I'll take that over shields. A guard barked for silence and ordered the line forward. They marched single file, ankles chained, yet the pace was quicker than before. The air gradually lost its knife edge as conifers gave way to larches and snow thinned to brittle grass. By midday they halted at a stone bridge spanning a roaring river. Guards unshackled ankles for the crossing, wary of accidents that might cost them their spoils. Sophia followed the column across planks that creaked under hundreds of feet. Sultan Arslan waited at the far end, mounted again. Sunlight flashed off the silver fastenings of his cloak. He spoke with his lieutenant, Bashir, while scanning the line. When Sophia stepped off the bridge, his gaze flicked to her. Bashir noticed and frowned. In the forest beyond, prisoners began to sweat under wool cloaks. Rurik muttered curses about the weight of chains. Thora wheezed softly, chest unused to the heavier scent of budding branches. They reached a clearing where water was distributed. Sophia helped cup water for Thora, then sat on a fallen log. The child she had fed earlier clung to her side. "I'm Lena," the girl whispered. "My wolf is Orla. She's scared." "I would be too," Sophia murmured, brushing dirt from Lena's tangled hair. "But you're both still here. That means you're strong." The column resumed, entering rolling hills dotted with wildflowers. Evening camp was set beside a lake where willows dipped into glassy water. Guards stretched ropes between trees, chaining prisoners by the waist. They tossed thin blankets. Sophia offered hers to Lena and Thora and settled beside them with only her torn coat. A crimson sunset lit ripples across the lake. Instruments played near the officers' tents. String and drum, urgent and pulsing. It set Sophia's pulse racing in reluctant answer. Arslan's silhouette stood on the shore, arms folded, eyes reflecting firelight. Bashir approached, gestured toward the prisoners. Their low conversation sharpened. Sophia couldn't hear words, but tension crackled. That night a storm broke. Rain hammered tents and hissed against embers. Shadows launched from the tree line. Rogue scavengers drawn by the scent of weakened prey. Guards scrambled. Prisoners shrieked as one rogue tore into the line, snapping chains. Sophia pushed Lena behind her. Before a rogue could strike, an obsidian blur intercepted. A massive wolf, jaws clamping the attacker's throat. Lightning illuminated black fur laced with bronze, Sultan Arslan's wolf. He whipped the rogue away, bones crunching. Then he pivoted toward Sophia, hackles high, eyes glowing molten gold. For an instant, time froze. Rain pounded. Everything smelled of wet fur and copper. Her own heartbeat thundered as his gaze pinned her. Then he turned to chase another rogue. The skirmish ended quickly. 2 rogues lay dead, 3 captured, the rest vanished. Dawn broke gray over a camp, weary but intact. Sophia remembered the moment his wolf stood between her and death, gratitude warring with fear. When chains were reset, Bashir approached the prisoners and gestured at Sophia. "You come." She hesitated. Guards unlocked her manacle and marched her toward Arslan's pavilion. Inside, braziers glowed, casting a scent of cedar. Arslan sat at a low table, armor removed, a fresh scratch across his cheekbone. Bashir spoke formally. "She was nearly killed. The men say you acted." Arslan's gaze lifted to Sophia. "Leave us," he told Bashir. Silence weighed heavy. Sophia forced herself to meet his eyes. They were deep gold, restless. "You shielded me," she said. "I defended my camp." "You defended me first. Why?" He paced around the brazier. "You ask dangerous questions. I face dangerous answers anyway. Is that bravery or ignorance?" "Both, perhaps." Arslan exhaled. "My wolf believes you are significant." The word tasted sour. He sensed something I refuse. "I have no wolf." "You are wolfless, yes?" "Weak. Half-starved." His words cut, but his tone carried frustration more than malice. "Yet when night storms, my wolf drags me toward you. If your wolf claims I belong near you, why chain me? You think chains forged for you? They're forged for me. I lost my first mate to war. Fate would mock me by gifting another, frail as candle smoke. I will not accept it." "Perhaps fate mocks us both," she whispered. "I never asked for any bond." Arslan looked away. "Go, rest, you have another march tomorrow." Back in the barrack, Sophia shared only that the Sultan wanted to ensure no injuries. 2 more days' travel brought them out of forests into foothills where grass waved in warm breezes. Snow was a rumor behind them. Fields unfolded in gold, dotted with orchards. Sophia's skin itched beneath sun for the first time in months. Freckles emerged beside bruises. On the afternoon of the 4th day, they crested a ridge and saw Maradun, white walls, blue-tiled towers, date palms framing canals. The crowd pressed back to create a corridor for the procession. Drummers announced the Sultan's return, rhythms vibrating within Sophia's chest. The air smelled of cardamom and roasting lamb. Guards diverted prisoners toward a fortress on the eastern wall. Inside, stone cells circled a central hall. Sophia, Lena, Thora, and Rurik ended up together. When the guard turned the key, Lena burst into tears. Sophia drew her close, singing a northern lullaby. Thora added cracked harmonies. Even Rurik hummed, rough counterpoint. Footsteps approached. Bashir appeared outside the bars, lantern in hand. "The Sultan commands your presence tomorrow," he said to Sophia. "At dawn." "He sweeps up everything," Rurik said once Bashir left. "Don't cling to it. Arslan is a desert storm." "Then I'll have to be the stone he can't move." The cell grew hushed. Sophia tilted her face toward the slice of moon visible through the high window. It looked different here. Larger, tinted gold by desert air. She pressed a palm to her chest where warmth pulsed and whispered into the dark. "If you are real, speak." Only silence answered, but a thread of comfort wound through her veins, a promise without words. She closed her eyes and dreamed again of the palace of white stone, the wolf with the silver nose waiting nearer, its breath warm against her fingertips before dawn scattered the vision. The iron door groaned open at first light, flooding the small cell with a spill of torchlit corridor. Sophia rose from her pallet, smoothing dust from her skirt. Lena clung to her hand but released it after a soft squeeze of reassurance. Guards ushered Sophia out, binding her wrists with leather cuffs rather than chains, symbolic restraint that still stung with implication. Rurik lifted a hand in silent salute. Thora murmured a blessing that smelled like crushed sage. Then the corridor swallowed Sophia. They led her through winding passages toward the palace, Meriden unfurled in layers of alabaster walls, lattice windows, and courtyards where fountains murmured under blooming orange trees. Sophia had never seen such color, jeweled mosaics along archways, rugs of crimson and sapphire, sunlight caught in patterned tiles. The city inhaled heat even at dawn, carrying spice and sand on every breath. She tried to take it in without revealing awe. Ahead, two gilded doors opened onto a long hall lined with veiled attendants and guards whose helms curved like falcon beaks. At the far end, Arslan waited upon a low dais, clad in charcoal robes stitched with silver thread. He looked carved from obsidian, motionless except for eyes following her advance. Bashir stood at his right, hands clasped behind his back. At left was a woman of striking beauty, tall, tawny-skinned, dressed in emerald silk. Her wolf flickered gold in her gaze, assessing Sophia with thinly veiled disdain. Sophia halted before the dais, the hall's hush pressed on her ears. She bowed slightly, refusing full prostration. Arslan's gaze flicked to her bound wrists. "Remove the cuffs," he ordered. A guard obeyed. The leather fell away. Sophia rubbed circulation back into her hands, expecting to feel relief but sensing only deeper exposure. Arslan gestured for her to step closer. "You are before my court, yet you stand as though unimpressed." "I have nothing left to protect but my spine," she said quietly. "If I bend, it will break." A ripple of murmurs traveled the hall. The emerald-clad woman's lips curved in a cold smile. Arslan's wolf voice rumbled within pack lines. Sophia couldn't hear words, but several guards stiffened. He rose and descended the dais until they were an arm's length apart. Up close, the difference in stature was startling. He radiated heat like sun-baked stone, while she felt forged from snow and hunger. "Tell me, what drives you now?" he asked. "Survival," she answered, then added, "Curiosity." "What could a palace filled with your captors possibly offer your curiosity?" "Truth. About why every step south feels like walking towards something instead of away." A flash of something, recognition perhaps, moved across his features. He glanced at the emerald woman. "Vizier Seline, you sense nothing unusual in her scent?" Seline descended, circled Sophia slowly. "Only poverty and frost," she said, though her nose twitched. Her wolf murmured, puzzlement threading anger. She paused behind Sophia, voice dropping. Yet there is a thread of spice beneath it, barely there but tempting. Arslan's jaw flexed. Enough, I will judge. Seline bowed, but as she stepped back, she whispered near Sophia's ear, "Pray you remain unremarkable, northern girl." The threat thrummed with jealousy. Arslan waved guards forward. "Fetch the oracle bands." Two attendants carried a small chest topped with velvet. Inside lay twin bracelets of copper inlaid with tiny moonstones. Bashir hesitated. "Sire, the bands have not been used since—" "I am aware," Arslan cut in. "Place one upon her." Sophia held out her arm. The copper band clasped above her wrist felt cool, then warmed to skin temperature. Arslan slid the second onto his own forearm. A soft glow shimmered over the metal, pulsing like twin heartbeats trying to find rhythm. "These were forged by desert seers," he said. "They reveal hidden bonds by mirroring a partner's pulse. Watch." He lifted his arm. The moonstones on both cuffs flickered, at first unevenly, then slid into perfect sync. Gasps echoed along the hall. Sophia's breath caught. The glow intensified until heat licked her veins. Deep inside, under years of silence, something stirred. Distant thunder rolling closer. Unbidden tears welled. She blinked them back, refusing to show weakness. Arslan quickly unlatched his cuff. Attendant scrambled to remove hers. He stepped back, as though the sudden nearness had scorched him. "Take her to the training yard," he ordered, voice harsh. "See if she can wield a blade." Bashir bowed and signaled Sophia to follow. As she left, Seline's gaze burned holes between her shoulder blades. The yard lay behind the eastern wing, a broad space of packed sand ringed by colonnades. Warriors sparred with scimitars, their wolves offering commentary through mind links Sophia could not hear. Bashir handed her a wooden practice sword. "Show us basic stance," he said. She had never held a weapon beyond dull farm tools, but pride stiffened her spine. She mimicked warriors she had watched back home, feet shoulder width, knees soft, blade angled upward. Bashir corrected her grip without cruelty. "Again." She practiced until sweat dampened her clothes. Guards snickered, but she kept swinging, arms vibrating with impact. Mid-morning heat made her dizzy, yet she welcomed it. The cold of Frosthaven felt like a lifetime ago. Arslan arrived hours later, standing in shadow under an archway. Sparring halted. Bashir motioned for a senior trainer, Captain Idris, to test her. Idris was a lean southerner whose gray wolf flickered behind his eyes with sly amusement. "Try to strike me," he said, offering a wooden scimitar. Sophia swallowed, advanced. Idris deflected with effortless grace, tapping her shoulder. Again, snow pebble. She attacked. Again he blocked. A third time she feinted left. He countered, but she twisted, scraping his tunic. Idris's smirk faded. He stepped up speed, blows slamming her defenses. Pain exploded across her knuckles. Onlookers cheered. Sophia's breath came ragged. Idris lunged. She ducked, sand stinging her eyes, and thrust upward. The wooden tip pressed lightly against his sternum. A hush fell. Idris lowered his blade, surprise etched in sweat-slick brow. He bowed. Bashir clapped once. "Enough. Her reflexes are untrained but promising." Arslan did not applaud. He walked onto the sand, reached down, and plucked Sophia's sword from her grasp. Promise alone does not keep one alive. He tossed the weapon aside, drew his own steel, its edge catching sun. A collective inhale swept the yard. Bashir stepped forward. "Sire." Arslan silenced him with a glance. "This blade is real. One wrong move will scar." He handed her another wooden scimitar. "Defend." Pulse drumming, she raised the practice blade. He attacked without warning. Sparks flew where steel met wood. The force jarred her shoulders. She staggered but pivoted away. Wolves around them called tactics within their bonds. Sophia only had instinct. The world narrowed to flashing steel and the measured thunder of her heart. Arslan pressed, testing angles. Once, twice, thrice she barely parried. Sweat blurred her vision. On the fourth strike, he knocked the wooden sword wide, stepped in, and held his blade at her throat. "Yield," he said. Sophia's chest heaved. She looked past the bright edge into his eyes. An unexpected tide rose in her, not defiance, but certainty, like stepping onto stone after years of thin ice. "No." She dropped, sweeping a leg. Arslan leapt back, surprised. Sophia rolled, caught her sword, and swung. The practice blade smacked his armored forearm. Gasps burst from watchers. The strike could not wound, but the symbolism landed deep. Arslan lowered his sword. For a moment he stared at the welt forming on his skin, then at her flushed face. His wolf surged forward. Though she couldn't hear words, she felt its roar, fierce and triumphant. Something answered inside her, a vibration so pure she almost cried out. Arslan sheathed steel. "Enough." Bashir exhaled loudly. Idris grinned, admiration shining. Arslan addressed the yard. "She will receive instruction alongside our novices, twice daily." His gaze swept to Sophia. "And quarters apart from the dungeon." He turned on his heel, cloak swirling. Seline appeared at the archway, face thunderous. She watched Arslan depart, then focused venom on Sophia before disappearing inside. Bashir approached, expression guarded. "Apparently you survive another day. Come, we will find you a room." He led her through shaded corridors to a modest chamber overlooking a courtyard of jasmine vines. A basin of water and a simple bed awaited her, along with fresh linen clothes. She asked, "May I see the other prisoners?" "Not yet." He hesitated. "Sultan will not release them until he understands this situation." "Situation? Whatever binds you two." Bashir's voice carried concern beneath duty. "He is a man shaped by loss. Do not mistake his mercy for weakness, nor his silence for peace." Sophia washed dust from her skin, marveling at the feel of clean fabric. She gazed into a small bronze mirror, studying bruises along her jaw, sun-kissed freckles newly born. Under her ribs, that warmth expanded, pulsing to a rhythm she did not understand. Late afternoon brought a platter of spiced rice and figs. Hunger won over suspicion. After eating, she wandered onto the balcony. Palace roofs shimmered under copper sun. Minarets pierced sky as call bells tolled for evening prayer. In the garden below, trainees practiced forms, wolves offering guidance. A subtle rustle made her turn. Seline leaned against the doorframe, veils shadowing her eyes. "You learn quickly," Seline said, each word dipped in honeyed poison. "But speed does not grant belonging." "I learned because I had to." Sophia kept her voice steady. "Belonging is earned, not gifted." Seline stepped closer. "We both know why you are here." "I was friend to the Sultan's first mate. I watched her die in his arms. Do you think the palace will welcome a replacement? Especially one as frail as you?" "I ask for no place except my own. Your place is a threat to every bond that still mourns her." Celine's wolf flared in her gaze, predatory and jealous. "Keep that in mind, Snow Pebble." She left as quietly as she came. Sophia exhaled, palms damp. She stared at the city until lamps blossomed in windows and constellations bloomed overhead. Crickets replaced daybirds. Somewhere distant, a flute began a slow melody of longing. It floated up to the balcony, weaving through jasmine scent to curl around Sophia's heart. Later, Maeva's lullaby returned unbidden. Sophia hummed it while lying on the bed, letting the foreign sheets cradle her. Sleep tugged gently, but with it came the now familiar dream. She stood once more in the marble hall, white pillars gleaming. The pitch-black wolf with the silver nose paced in a circle, eyes reflecting every star that ever burned. In the dream, she felt her pulse echo inside the wolf's chest, as though they shared one heart. When she reached out, silver dust swirled around her fingers. The wolf pressed its forehead to her palm. A spark leapt into her veins, hot, ancient, unmistakable. She woke gasping, hand glowing faintly before the light faded. Morning broke with doves cooing under eaves. Sophia, dressed in the linen trousers and tunic left out for her, cinched with a leather belt. Bashir arrived to escort her to breakfast with trainees, simple bread, olives, dates. The novices eyed her curiously. She shared small smiles, though conversation ceased when Idris announced weapons drill. While she practiced forms, sweat stinging her eyes, Arslan watched from a terrace above, arms folded. He said nothing, but every time she faltered, Idris corrected her, and she sensed the Sultan noting her corrections with silent approval. Or was it hope? As the sun climbed, Idris paired students for sparring. Sophia faced a muscular youth whose golden wolf grinned through amber irises. He attacked hard, seeking to impress. She blocked, pivoted, reading distance like she was born on sand instead of ice. After several exchanges, she slipped under his guard and tapped his ribs. Idris called halt, nodding. Cheers erupted from some novices. Others glared. Progress bred enemies as quickly as respect. During midday break, Sophia sat beneath a fig tree drinking water. Arslan descended the stairs alone, novices scattered to distance. He crouched across from her. "You dream of forests at dusk," he said, not asking but knowing. "I dream of dunes at dawn. Both dreams now end with the same black wolf." Sophia's heart thudded. "You see it too?" "My wolf says her name is Destiny. I call her Curse." "Maybe she is both," Sophia whispered. "A curse that grants freedom. A destiny forged in chains." Arslan studied her. Sunlight bronzed the planes of his face, highlighting an old scar near his temple. The wound, she learned, that had failed to save his first mate. She reached, hesitated, then let her hand fall. Touch felt too bold. "Why tell me this?" she asked. "Because silence feeds fear," he said, "and I have had my fill of fear." He stood, extended a hand. She took it, surprised at the warmth and firmness. He pulled her to her feet. For a breath, they were closer than decorum allowed. His scent, cedar, steel, and a trace of desert wind filled her lungs. Underneath pulsed something wilder, calling across marrow and memory. Footsteps broke the moment, Seline approaching with scrolls. Arslan released Sophia, expression sealing shut. He took the scrolls, thanked Seline, and strode away. Seline's gaze cut to Sophia like a blade. Sand shifts under unsteady feet. Pray it does not swallow you. Hours later, Sophia collapsed onto her bed, body aching pleasantly. A knock sounded. Lena slipped in, escorted by a maid. "The Sultan ordered younger captives relocated to servant quarters," Lena said, hugging Sophia fiercely. "He said we would be safer inside walls." Hope fluttered like moth wings in Sophia's chest. Perhaps Arslan's compassion burrowed deeper than he would admit. That night she sat by the window with Lena asleep nearby. Lantern light danced across parchment where she scratched memories, names of prisoners, glimpses of home, the feel of snow under moonlight. She would not let those fragments slip. Down in the garden, Arslan practiced sword forms alone. His blade carved silver arcs against moonlit palms. She watched, breath slowing to his rhythm. He paused, sensing eyes, and looked up. Across the distance, their gazes met. He did not smile, but something eased in his shoulders. She lifted her hand in silent salute. He answered with a slow dip of his head before returning to practice. Sophia lay back, hearing the clang of steel echo like a second heartbeat to her own. As she closed her eyes, warmth unfurled beneath her ribs, steady, insistent. She breathed through it, neither fearing nor welcoming. It simply was, a promise of change already begun. Sophia woke to the muted clatter of distant training bells and a shaft of yellow dawn cutting across her modest chamber. Fine dust swirled in the beam, turning circles like tiny worlds. For one groggy heartbeat, she braced for the crack of Karen's stick against the stable walls back in Frosthaven. But there was only the hush of the palace, scented with jasmine and warm bread. She lay still, absorbing the strangeness of a mattress beneath her bones instead of straw. Her fingers brushed the linen sheet, tracing the weave. Yesterday's bruises pulsed along her arms, but under the ache, a steady heat thrummed. The same low ember she'd felt since the caravan crossed into the warmer south. A soft knock drew her back to the moment. Bashir opened the door without waiting for a reply. Morning light gilded the salt strands in his dark hair, and the scar over his brow looked less fierce outside the battlefield. "Up with you," he said, attempting sternness but settling on mild amusement. "Captain Idris won't slow training for yawns." Sophia pushed upright and swung her feet to the floor. "I'm ready." "You slept?" "Enough." She gathered her wool trousers and tunic, garments simple, yet whole. That felt like victory. Bashir waited in the hall while she dressed. When she emerged, he passed her a ceramic cup. "Chamomile and mint," he said. "Idris claims it steadies the stomach before drills." "My stomach will thank him." She sipped, startled by the flavor, fresh and cool instead of the bitter pine tea elders brewed back home. The corridors bustled with servants balancing baskets of figs and folded linens. Bashir set an easy pace so she could learn the route, down a spiral stair lit by glass-slit windows, past a courtyard where citrus trees glowed orange, then through an arcade to the training yard. The sand there was the color of sun-bleached parchment. Idris waited, wooden practice scimitar resting across his shoulders. "You're late," he called, though Bashir's shadow still touched the archway. Bashir raised a brow. "The bells struck but once. Then get used to them striking twice." Idris turned to Sophia. "Warm up. Stretches first, then the forms we drilled yesterday." Sophia bowed her head, aware of other eyes following her. A line of novices, boys and girls her age, some older, watched while limbering legs. She joined the end of the row. Whispers fluttered along the line. "That's her. The northerner. They say she fought the captain 2 days after capture." "Wolfless, though. Arslan favors her, that's trouble." Sophia inhaled, held the breath, and exhaled slowly. Let them wonder. She copied the stretches Idris demonstrated, feeling muscles protest before loosening. Sand shifted under bare soles. When she moved into the first blade form, heels aligned, sword arm high, shadows of yesterday's corrections guided her elbows. A novice to her right, a lank boy with a shaved head, leaned closer between sets. "I'm Tarek," he murmured. "If you need a spar partner, we rotate. Ignore Lala. She talks more than she swings." Lala, a stocky girl 2 places down, shot them both a glare. Sophia gave Tarek a grateful nod. "Sophia?" She whispered back. "But you already know that." "Hard not to when Seline is spitting your name at breakfast," he said, eyes twinkling. Idris clapped twice, the row formed pairs. Sophia ended up with Tarek, who handed her a fresh practice sword with a wink. "Let's see the northern style." "I don't have one," she admitted. "Then invent it." First exchange. Tarek attacked with a high cut. Sophia blocked, sliding under his guard the way she'd studied. He grinned. "Better than you claim." They moved again. Sweat quickly darkened collars. Morning sun climbed. Across the yard, Idris supervised, occasionally stepping behind Sophia to nudge her stance. "Keep knees bent. Momentum starts in the hips." His tone carried approval masked by impatience. Another hour passed in thrusts, counters, and footwork until Idris barked for water. Sophia wiped her brow with a sleeve and staggered to a shaded table where an attendant poured from a copper jug. Bashir offered her a slice of sweet melon. She hesitated only a second before biting, juice dripping down her wrist. "You learn quickly," Bashir said quietly. "Quick learning is easier than starving." His mouth twitched, a fleeting smile. "Your resilience will earn enemies as fast as allies. Guard both flanks." "They whisper already." "Then you're halfway there." He tapped a knuckle on the wooden guard of her sword. "Back at it. Idris isn't finished." Training resumed with group drills, circles of 5 facing inward, blades clacking. Sophia's shoulders burned, but each parry felt more natural, as if muscle remembered older movements she'd never learned. From atop the colonnade, servants unrolled white canvas awnings. High above, a lone figure leaned against a pillar's shade. She sensed him before she saw him, Arslan, observing in silence. Sunlight glinted off the silver hilt of the sword at his hip. The moment her gaze brushed his, heat pulsed under her skin. His eyes remained unreadable, yet she heard a rumor in the silence, like a distant voice calling her name. Tarek's wooden blade tapped her shoulder. "Lost in clouds?" She refocused, cheeks warm. "Just sun in my eyes." "Sun bites," he agreed and rushed forward. An hour later, Idris dismissed the novices. Sophia's tunic clung to her back. Bashir guided her into the shade of an adjacent corridor, where cool air pooled. "Water then meal," Bashir said. "Healthy portions. Idris insists." Sophia's legs ached, but held steady. In the dining hall, a long chamber of ochre walls painted with desert wolves, novices grabbed bowls of lentils and flatbreads. She took a place near the center, Tarek across from her. He tore bread, dipped it in a stew, and nodded at her grip. "The way you twist your wrist mid-block, that's clever. I copy what works. Keep it. Idris pushes us to specialize." Conversation quieted when Seline entered. She walked the aisle with a glide, emerald robes trailing like vines. Wolves glimpsed behind her eyes regarded each trainee with faint disdain until they settled on Sophia. "Captain Idris," Seline called. "The Sultan requests this one's presence. Ensure she is prepared for her afternoon engagement." Idris rose from a bench, wiping stew from his beard. "Afternoon engagement?" Celine's gaze never left Sophia. "The harem awaits its newest flower." Bashir, approaching with a tray, paused. "The harem?" "It is customary." Seline smiled without warmth. "Every woman on palace grounds must be catalogued." Idris set his bowl down hard. Broth sloshed. "She is a trainee now, Vizier, not an ornament. Let the Sultan decide her category." Seline turned on soft slippers and exited. Murmurs erupted. Tarek swore under his breath. Sophia forced a swallow of lentils that stuck in her throat. Bashir laid a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I'll escort you," he said. A short time later, she stood before towering cedar doors carved with curling vines. 2 harem guards swung them open. The hall beyond shimmered with silk drapes, sun filtering through colored glass to paint the marble in emeralds and rubies. A fountain tinkled, its basin scattered with rose petals. The scent was heady, dizzying. Women lounged on divans, she-wolves in jewel gowns, eyes bright with curiosity or contempt. Seline led Sophia toward the center, where a raised dais held cushioned seating. Zara sat there, back straight, copper hair braided with gold threads. Her wolf flickered behind hazel eyes, assessing and predatory. Celine's voice spilled like honey. "Sisters, welcome Sophia of the North, guest of our Sultan." Whispers rose. "She looks thin. Wolfless, they say. Why is she dressed like a trainee?" Zara rose gracefully and descended the steps. She stopped a foot from Sophia, surveying her from boots to hair. "So fragile," she murmured. "An icicle, lost in the desert." Sophia kept her gaze level. "Fragile things can cut." Laughter rippled, some amused, most shocked. Zara's smile sharpened. She leaned close enough that her breath warmed Sophia's ear. "Remember that when you melt." A slap of silk announced Seline clapping once. Attendants carried trays of sweet tea. "Let us drink to new beginnings." Sophia accepted a cup, steam carrying cardamom scents. She lifted it, aware of dozens of eyes. Across the dais, Aliyah, a slim she-wolf with cold dark eyes, watched her with quiet interest, neither smirking nor praising. Zara sipped and wrinkled her nose. Too bitter. Perhaps the northern palate prefers bitterness. Sophia tasted the tea. It was sweet. She met Zara's gaze. Perhaps you mistake sweetness for poison. Zara's fingers tightened on the porcelain. Before she could respond, Seline interjected, voice syrup thick. Enough sparring. Sophia requires orientation. She gestured to 2 attendants. Show her the baths. Help her select proper attire. Sophia followed. Behind gauzy curtains lay a domed chamber of blue tiles. Steam rose from a sunken pool. Attendants unclasped her tunic, offering silks. She declined and kept her training trousers, kneeling beside the pool to wash her face. Water glimmered like liquid glass. Aaliyah slipped through a curtain and crouched beside her. Don't let them unsettle you, she said, voice low. Zara tests every newcomer. She enjoys testing, Sophia replied, and breaking. Aaliyah dipped a cloth, wrung it out. But you do not seem brittle. Sophia smiled faintly. Looks deceive. Then deceive them well. Aaliyah handed her the cloth. If you need safe company, find me. Sophia thanked her. A hush fell. Seline appeared at the doorway. Enjoying the baths? Yes, Sophia answered, drying her face. Good. Remember, elegance is as important as strength. Celine's gaze lingered on Sophia's bruises. In this palace, every scar is a story. Make sure yours end with victory. Sophia followed her back through the hall. Women's laughter trailed behind. As she reached the exit, Zara's voice floated over silk rustles. Wolves without fangs don't win stories, she said. Sophia did not turn, but her pulse hammered. Hours later, the sun balanced on the palace walls, throwing long orange bars across the courtyard. Training resumed. Idris coached footwork. Novices circled. Sophia's arms trembled from exhaustion, but stubborn pride kept her upright. When drills paused, Idris approached, speaking softly. Detours won't steal progress, he said, nodding toward the harem wing. I'll train at night if needed, she replied. You might. The Sultan sometimes inspects after dusk. She glanced to the terrace, but Arslan was absent. Dinner spilled into dusk. Sophia ate with Lena and Thora in a quiet servant hall. Lena recounted learning embroidery from an old seamstress who smelled of lavender. Thora sipped broth and traced knotwork patterns on the table, her wolf-reese humming sorrow in her gaze. Sophia shared her fresh melon slice with Lena, who giggled, sticky-fingered. Later, when moonlight silvered the flagstones, Sophia returned to the training yard. Alone. Torches flickered along the walls. She set her stance, exhaled, and moved through the forms Idris had drilled. Rising cut, sweeping guard, reverse pivot. Sand hissed under her feet. Each breath matched the low drum of blood in her ears. Swing, block, step. Again. Again. Sweat cooled on her neck. A rustle of fabric behind a column alerted her. She didn't stop. Another pass. Step, parry imaginary strike, counter. The watcher stayed silent. She knew who it was without looking. Her heartbeat quickened, but she forced calm, letting the rhythm of movement steady her. She finished the final form, lowering the wooden blade. Only then did she turn. Arslan stepped from the shadow, arms folded. Torchlight carved his face into sharp planes, eyes molten gold. You should rest, he said. I will, she replied, catching her breath. Later. His gaze traced the line of her arm where a fresh bruise purpled. His wolf's voice seemed to vibrate in the air, though she could not hear words, only felt the weight of longing and frustration. He took a step closer. She held her ground. Why drive yourself beyond exhaustion, he asked. If I break before dawn, I'll know I wasn't meant to survive. Survival is not proof of worth. It's enough for tonight. Arslan's jaw flexed. Somewhere within, his wolf growled. She sensed the rumble more than heard it. He reached out, perhaps to touch her shoulder, then withdrew before contact. Captain Idris tests you tomorrow, he said, and so do you. His eyes narrowed, then softened unexpectedly. And what is your verdict? Ask me when I can still lift my arms." A breath of laughter escaped him, quickly stifled. He turned away, cloak swirling. "Rest, Sophia." She watched him disappear into the corridor, tension coiled like wire behind each stride. Alone again, she pressed a palm to her sternum. The internal heat beat stronger tonight. Dreams waited, pressing against sleep like hands against glass. When she slipped into bed, moonlight slicing across the ceiling, Lena's soft snores filled the quiet. Sophia's eyelids dragged closed. Almost at once the dream claimed her. She walked a corridor of white marble, walls shimmering with runes. At the end stood a black wolf with a silver nose, eyes gleaming like twin moons. It padded forward. She reached out, fingers trembling, and for the first time, its voice brushed her mind. Not words, but a rumble of recognition that filled her chest with fierce warmth. She woke just before dawn, lungs full of the wolf's breath, heart racing. The gong for dawn prayer sounded low and resonant through the palace, rippling across tiled roofs like a quiet tide. Sophia dressed quickly, her limbs still aching from midnight drills. She paused at the mirror, noticing new calluses forming on her palms. Good, she thought. Skin toughens before spirit breaks. Lena stirred on her pallet but slipped back into dreams while clutching the stuffed scrap of cloth that doubled as a doll. Sophia kissed the girl's brow and slipped into the corridor. Bashir waited outside with 2 guards and a tray of flatbread wrapped around roasted eggplant. "Eat on the walk," he said, thrusting it into her hands. "Captain Idris expects you twice, eager for morning drills after your nocturnal escapade." "You knew? I know everything that happens in these halls." His lips twitched. "Some nights the guards hear phantom blades slicing sand. I keep silent." "Thank you." They crossed a courtyard where gardeners swept fallen jasmine petals into neat piles. The air smelled faintly of cardamom and damp stone. Bashir's steps slowed at an intersection leading away from the yard. "The Sultan summons me," he said. "Stay alert today, do not rise to every taunt." Sophia managed a wry smile. "I'll keep my sword sheathed unless ordered." "Wise." He lowered his voice. "Remember, endurance cuts deeper than sharp tongues." She nodded and continued alone. In the training yard, Idris was already setting up mock shields. Tarek waved her over. Lala stood nearby, arms folded. Sophia joined their line as Idris called out exercises. "Today, shield and scimitar coordination," he announced. "Pairs advance and defend in staggered sequence." They practiced pivoting behind wooden shields, blocking overhead strikes, and countering with diagonal cuts. Sophia's shoulders screamed in protest, but she kept adjusting stance until Idris grunted approval. Sweat dripped off her chin. Lala paired with her and pushed aggressively, clearly resentful of the attention Sophia drew. During a break, Lala muttered, "One whisper from Seline and half the yard forgets you're wolfless." "Then I'll remind them with steel, not whispers," Sophia replied, drinking water. Layla snorted. "Steel obeys wolves before men, runt." When drills ended, Idris motioned Sophia aside. "Hold your shield higher on blocks," he said. "Everything else is improving." She bowed. "Thank you, I'll correct it." As she left the yard for midday meal, servants hurried past, whispering about a sandstorm approaching. Sky at the horizon chalked pale tan, a sign of wind from the interior deserts. Sophia brushed dust off her sleeves and headed toward the refectory, but paused when she saw Bashir arguing quietly with Arslan at the base of a mosaic-lined stair. She ducked behind a pillar within earshot. "Her progress exceeds your predictions," Bashir said. Arslan's arms were crossed, brows drawn. "Progress doesn't breed worth." "Your wolf claims otherwise." A growl, low and unmistakable, vibrated the air. Arslan's voice dropped even lower. "My wolf seeks comfort in illusions. I remind him of reality." Sophia could not hear the wolf's reply, but she saw Arslan's shoulders tense as though resisting a force inside. Bashir continued, gentler. "She survived invasion, desert march, and your personal trials. Weakness is not the word I'd choose." Arslan turned sharply toward the corridor leading to his chambers. Strength without a wolf is a blade without a hilt. It cuts the bearer first. He stalked off, cloak snapping. Bashir sighed and pressed fingers to his brow before following. Sophia flattened against the pillar, heart hammering. So his wolf truly fought him. The knowledge prickled with both hope and dread. She hurried to the refectory where novices crowded long tables. Tarek saved her a spot. "You look pale," he said, sliding a bowl of lentil stew her way. "Did Lala gut you?" "Only with sarcasm." She forced a smile and tasted stew, steadying breath. Tarek chatted about shield angles. His easy manner eased knots in her stomach. When the meal ended, she excused herself to visit Thora and Lena in the servant quarters, hoping for calm before facing the harem again. A courtyard path skirted the outer wall, shaded by date palms. As Sophia approached a marble archway, she heard soft weeping. Rounding a corner, she found Lena pressed against rough stone, Zara looming above. "Pretty little pup," Zara crooned. "Tell me, do you like living with traitors?" Lena shook her head silently, tear tracks glistening. "Then stay clear of Sophia, choose friends carefully." Zara's wolf flickered amber behind her eyes. She raised a hand as if to strike. "Enough," Sophia said, stepping forward. Zara turned, slow and smiling. "How timely," she drawled. "I worry you tire of steel and crave other battles. You threaten a child for amusement?" "For strategy. Remove pieces from the board before they hinder play." Zara's wolf laughed inside her tone. "This one is easily broken." Sophia's fists clenched. She took a breath, recalling Bashir's warning. "Touch her, and Idris will train with a new dummy. He enjoys live targets." Zara's lips parted, baring dainty fangs. Aliyah padded into the courtyard then, eyes calm. "Zara, the vizier requests your presence," she said. Zara flicked invisible dust from her sleeve. "I'll come when the air smells less northern." She brushed past, skirts whispering. Aliyah crouched beside Lena, checking for bruises. Sophia knelt too. "I'm okay," Lena murmured, voice watery. Sophia kissed her temple. "Stay with Thora. I'll visit this evening." Lena nodded, clutching Sophia's hand until she rose. Aliyah stood as well. Zara is not easily deterred, but humiliating her publicly hurts her pride more than bruises. "I'll keep that in mind," Sophia said. "Be careful," Aliyah warned. Seline encourages Zara's spite. They share ambition, like bones share marrow. Sophia thanked her and returned to her chamber to stretch sore muscles. After sunset, she slipped back to the courtyard for solitary drills, determined to refine the shield angle Idris noted. Wind carried sand across the palace grounds, torches burned lower to prevent embers catching. She trained until sweat cut streaks through settling dust on her skin. At the far end of the yard, she sensed Arslan under the arcade, half his face lit by torch flare. His wolf growled a low greeting she could not hear but felt. She lowered her weapon. "I wondered if Sand would chase trainees indoors," he said. "I'm not a trainee anymore, apparently," she replied, wiping grit from her forehead. His eyes flickered. "Meaning?" "In the harem today, flower was the term." Arslan's jaw tightened. Seline exceeded instruction. Sophia lifted the wooden shield. "I'd rather train than wilt." He stepped onto the sand. "Then train." He drew his sword halfway, glinting steel. "Block real steel without flinching." She swallowed. Idris wouldn't approve. "My yard, my rules." He advanced, blade tilted. She raised the shield. The first strike echoed, reverberating up her arms. Pain bit, but she held. He circled, testing. She pivoted, sand sliding under bare feet. Second strike rattled her elbow. She almost dropped the shield. His wolf urged him again. She saw tension flicker across his cheek. He pressed, and she blocked, then rolled aside, catching a glancing blow on her bicep. He paused. Yield. No. Stubborn as ever. Afraid of a wolfless girl? His eyes burned. He lunged. She caught the blade on the rim, twisted, angled downward. Sparks flared. Adrenaline flooded her limbs. She stepped inside, slammed the shield into his shoulder. Surprise flickered. He kicked her shin instinctively. Pain exploded, but she stayed upright. His wolf's voice thundered in the air. She is ours. Accept. Sophia couldn't hear words, but she sensed a crackling tension that made her skin buzz. Arslan stepped back, blade lowering. Enough. Why stop? She panted. Because next stroke draws blood. He sheathed the sword. You proved your point. What point is that? That steel respects determination. She held his gaze. Does the Sultan? A beat of silence. Respect is earned in smaller steps than you think. He turned away, adding softer. Rest the leg. He disappeared. Sophia exhaled shakily, leg throbbing where he kicked. She limped to a stone bench, massaging the bruise. A hot prickle spread from the aching shin up to her chest, as if a current sparked under her skin. Back in her room, she bathed dust away. Thora brought salve for the bruise and listened as Sophia recounted the confrontation with Zara. The elder's gaze hardened. Bullies test thresholds, Thora said. Show them stone, not mud. Stone breaks. Not if fire forges it first. Midnight brought restless sleep. The dream returned, brighter. Marble corridors shifted into a vast hall crowned by a glass dome. The silver-nosed wolf circled Sophia, eyes glinting blue fire. Words formed like wind across dunes, soft, ancient syllables. Asena. Hope seemed to flood Sophia's veins. The wolf lowered its head, pressing nose to her chest. Heat surged. She woke with a gasp, palm burning. Opening her hand, she saw nothing, only faint warmth fading. Next morning, Idris called a sparring tournament. Novices lined up. Spectators poured in, including several harem women. Zara perched on a balcony, silk fans hiding her mouth. Tarek faced Sophia in the first bracket. He winked and attacked with playful flourish. She parried, sidestepped, tapped his ribs. He grinned, bowed exaggeratedly as Idris declared her winner. She advanced through brackets, each opponent stronger. Lala forced her near the ropes. Sophia pivoted, slipped under a high thrust, and touched Lala's back. Applause scattered among spectators. Sweat drenched her tunic. Final match. Senior trainee Malik. Broader, faster. They circled. He feinted right, truly left. She barely blocked. Shields clashed. He pressed. She ducked. Shield banging his knee, then punched pommel against his shoulder. He stumbled. Gasps erupted. Malik snarled, wolf glint in his eyes, swung heavy. She raised shield high, absorbing impact. Wood splintered, her arm numbed. She dropped low, swept his legs. He fell. She pointed training blade at his throat. Silence, then cheers from unexpected voices. Some novices, even a few palace guards. Idris stepped forward. Victor, Sophia. She lowered the blade, breathing hard. Sight shifted beyond the ring to Arslan standing in the shade of a pillar, expression unreadable, but his wolf's pride washed over the yard like a hot gust. Zara's fingers snapped her fan shut, eyes cold. Idris motioned her over. You fought smart, he said. Not prettily, but war seldom cares for beauty. Thank you. Malik will nurse ego tonight, ignore him. Should I ignore the harem too? She asked. Better than feeding them. Idris handed her water. Let your sword answer. The afternoon lessons concluded. As Sophia limped from the yard, sandstorm winds finally arrived, pelting the palace with grit. Servants shuttered windows. Dust blurred lanterns. Inside her chamber, Lena braided Sophia's damp hair while humming a lullaby from the northern valleys. Thora brewed willow bark tea for bruises. Comfort glowed in the small room. Outside, grit lashed walls like claws on shields. Somewhere deeper within the palace, Arslan stood on the southern balcony overlooking swirling sand. Bashir approached, cloak snapping. You saw the match, Bashir said. I banned tournaments for months, Arslan replied, voice hoarse. Idris defied orders. Yet she thrived. Arslan's wolf spoke within. Smug. A mate of flame. Strong enough. Arslan clenched fists. Strength is not proof of destiny, he muttered aloud. Bashir studied him. She bleeds yet rises. Maybe destiny chooses such blood. Arslan turned, eyes searing. I lost one mate to destiny. I'll not bend to it again. The wolf snarled. You deny yourself. It hurts. Arslan pressed palms to the balustrade, breathing through the discord. Bashir laid a hand on his shoulder, then stepped back, leaving him alone with wind and inner voices. Night fell early under sand-heavy clouds. Sophia crept to the deserted baths, hoping heat would soothe muscle knots. Steam curled up mosaicked walls. Lanterns flickered. She slipped into the pool, water lapping bruises. In the hush, she let herself float, ears underwater, heartbeat drumming. She rose to find Seline standing at the edge, veil shifting. Enjoying privileges? Recovering, Sophia said, moving to the steps. Seline handed her a towel of fine linen, gaze sharp. The Sultan watches you. Power attracts storms, and storms drown the unprepared. Does power make you kind to storms or fearful of them? Sophia asked. Seline's lips curved. Neither, it makes me shape them. She turned. Beware, northern girl. Even the strongest trees snap in desert winds. The door closed behind her. Sophia exhaled a long breath. Towel clutched tight. As she dressed, she whispered, Asena, if you're real, I need more than dreams. No answer, yet her pulse answered, thudding fierce. She returned to her chamber to find a bundle on her bed. New leather bracers, sturdier shield straps, and salve for bruises. A single note lay atop, unsigned. Well-earned. Keep forging. She traced the handwriting, recognizing strokes from Idris, but the scent clinging to parchment spoke of cedar and steel. She tucked the note beneath her pillow, heart warming despite storm winds rattling shutters. Sleep claimed her swiftly. In dreams, the silver-nosed wolf stood beside her at the edge of a cliff overlooking dunes. This time, its voice formed clearer thought. Soon. Daughter of moon and storm. Soon. She woke at dawn, the storm spent, sky scrubbed clean. Her limbs ached, but something inside felt stronger, as if the night had forged new sinew in her spirit. She rose, tightened the new bracers, and prepared to face whatever trials waited in the Sultan's sun-washed palace. Sophia rose before dawn, her muscles still singing with yesterday's victories and bruises. She laced the new bracers tight, testing the fit with a few shadow punches, then slipped into the courtyard where torches guttered in pre-dawn hush. Stars lingered overhead, paling as the first streaks of rose touched the horizon. She began footwork drills, breathing deep to keep each motion fluid. Sand puffed beneath her heels. Halfway through a sequence, a presence settled at the edge of her awareness. She finished the cut, turned, and found Arslan leaning against a pillar flanked by unlit braziers, arms folded over a loose shirt, the color of storm clouds. You never tire, he said quietly. Tired enough to make mistakes, never enough to stop, she answered, lowering her sword. You fought well yesterday. He paused as if admitting it cost him. Better than some who've trained years. Steel respects determination, so you told me. His gaze flicked to the painted sky. Determination is valuable, sometimes dangerous. He pushed from the pillar. Bashir waits in the armory. He'll escort you to a private session. Another test? Call it evaluation. He hesitated as though battling words, then turned and vanished into the corridor. In the armory, Bashir handed her a blunted scimitar reinforced with a metal edge thick enough to bruise, but not cut. The Sultan wishes to measure more than technique, he said. He wants to see what drives you under pressure. Sophia rolled her shoulders. Will Seline or Zara watch? Only Idris, myself, and the Sultan. Fewer distractions. Bashir met her gaze. Remember, Wounds earned in truth heal stronger than bruises earned in mockery. The private arena lay beneath the palace, lit by skylights that captured new sun. Idris adjusted his beard as Sophia entered, nodding approval of her stance. Arslan waited inside the ring, sword sheathed, but aura coiled tight. Idris and Bashir took positions at opposite edges. No audience, no silk fans, just cool air and echoes. "Begin," Arslan said, drawing real steel once more. The metallic ring cracked like thunder. Sophia circled, shield raised. Arslan attacked fast, blade flashing silver. She blocked, pivoted, answered with a horizontal slash. He parried, responding with a thrust that rattled her shield arm. She forced herself to stay calm, searching for patterns. Seconds blurred as they traded strikes, steel on steel, wood on steel, her reflexes barely keeping pace. His wolf's presence surged with each clash, a tidal hum she felt more than heard. Arslan pressed harder, forcing her backward. Sweat stung her eyes. She blinked, breathed, angled her shield, and snapped a counter at his ribs. Metal met flesh with a dull thud, where blunted edge struck. He grunted, step back, eyes narrowing. "You hesitate," he growled. "Only to find openings. Openings are invitations for death." He lunged, speed sudden, blade whistling. She dropped, rolled, shield scraping stone. As she rose, his sword tapped her collarbone with a light but emphatic kiss of steel. "Yield," he ordered. She stared up, chest heaving, yet lifted her sword instead of dropping it. "No." His eyes flared. Inside his mind, the wolf's roar spilled into the room like hot wind. Sophia couldn't decipher words, but the fury and need washed over her, raising gooseflesh. Arslan's jaw clenched. He shoved down the blade, deliberately missing her throat by a whisper. "You are reckless," he snapped. "You test me to break me," she shot back, scrambling to her feet. "If you want surrender, command it." "I want truth," he said, voice roughened. "Fate claims you as my mate. I refuse a fate that replaces the strong with the fragile." The confession slammed into the silence. Idris shifted, startled. Bashir closed his eyes briefly. Sophia's pulse thundered. "Mate," she echoed. "I'm wolfless. What bond could—" "Exactly," Arslan hissed. "A bond built on weakness." His wolf snarled in protest, rattling the ring. "The oracle bands lied." Sophia's throat tightened. "So you punish me for a prophecy you despise?" "I punish folly before it grows." "Then strike me down," she said, spreading arms. "If I'm so unworthy, end this now." Her voice shook, but she held his gaze. Sword trembled in his grip. The wolf raged louder, begging acceptance. Arslan slammed the blade back into its sheath and turned away. "Leave!" he rasped, shoulders rigid. "Idris, dismiss her!" Idris ushered Sophia out. She walked woodenly, chest aching worse than any bruise. Bashir followed, brow creased. "He forgets his pain is not the only one," he murmured. "He reminded me well enough," she replied, voice hoarse. Bashir opened a side door leading to a narrow hall. "Breathe, child. Heal in strength, not spite." "I can heal only myself," she said, pushing past him. Outside, midday heat climbed. She stumbled toward the servants' wing, throat burning. Seline appeared at a balcony as if summoned by misery, smile serpentine. "I wondered when glass would crack," she called. Sophia ignored her, but Zara stepped out from behind a column, holding a jug. "Thirsty, northern flower?" She tipped the jug. Water hissed across sun-baked stone in front of Sophia's boots. "Oops." Sophia stopped, fists curling. Zara's wolf purred inside hazel eyes. Aaliyah arrived, placed herself between them. "Careful, Zara. Whetstone is slippery," she said. Zara's smile tightened. "So is ambition." She retreated, silk swirling. Aaliyah faced Sophia. "Bruises heal, words linger. Eat, rest, then strike back with victories." "I'm tired of victories that taste like ashes," Sophia whispered. "They won't always." Aaliyah squeezed her arm and left. Sophia found Thora in the infirmary steeping herbs. Lena sat on a stool, sewing torn cloth. When Sophia entered, Lena's face brightened, then fell at her expression. "He hurt you," Lena said softly. "Not the way you think." Sophia managed a faint smile. "Can you spare a willow tonic, Thora?" Thora poured steaming brew into a cup. "This men's body, not heart." "Time will handle the heart," Sophia said, sipping. Warmth spread through aching muscles, but not the hollow in her chest. Evening descended in streaks of copper and violet. A cooling breeze swept sand from the courtyards. Sophia climbed to the highest rooftop terrace she could find and watched the sun dip behind desert ridges. Loneliness pressed heavy, yet within it something stirred. Hope or hunger, she couldn't tell. She inhaled the scent of jasmine carried on the breeze and closed her eyes. In Arslan's private chamber, torchlight flickered against limestone walls. He paced, boots scuffing rugs. Every step met his wolf's relentless voice. "She is strength cloaked in waiting. You deny her. You deny us." He pressed palms over ears, though the voice was inside. Memory of her standing with arms spread, daring death, burned brighter than the desert sun. "She is fragile," he whispered. The wolf growled, low and sorrowful. "Fragile like steel forged thin and sharp. Deny fear, not bond." Arslan's throat closed around grief. Images of his first mate, bloodied in his arms, flashed behind his eyes. "I cannot lose another," he choked. "Lose her now by choice," the wolf replied, "or gain her forever by courage." He sank to a cushioned bench, hands shaking. Outside the window, night settled, bright with constellations. Sophia slipped quietly into the silent bath halls long after lamps had been lowered. The vast pool mirrored the stars through high latticework. She knelt at the water's edge, breathing in the damp warmth. She spoke into the darkness. "I may be fragile, but I'm alive. If fate means me to be more, then show me how." Water lapped softly. With trembling fingers she touched the surface. Ripples spread in concentric rings, shimmering silver under starlight. Heat bloomed beneath her ribs, steady, insistent. She closed her eyes and felt its rhythm. Heartbeat. Another pulse beneath it, deeper. She breathed deep. A whisper brushed her mind, not a word but a sense of acknowledgement. The silver-nosed wolf's presence curled around her consciousness like a protective cape, fierce and tender. She opened her eyes. The water lay smooth again. She dipped both hands, splashing coolness over her face, washing away dust and tears. Late that night, thunder cracked in the distance. A rare summer storm rolled across the southern dunes. The palace hummed with electricity, banners whipping on turrets. In the servants' corridor, shutters rattled. Sophia stood at her small window, watching lightning flash. Each jagged flare illuminated palm fronds heaving like sea waves. She pressed her palms to the sill and whispered, "I won't break." Lena stirred in her sleep, murmuring Sophia's name. Thora's soft snores drifted from the cot. Sophia tucked blankets around Lena, then lay on her own pallet, eyes on the ceiling. Wind moaned around tiles, but inside, an answering strength coiled. Asena waiting, the name echoing through her bones. She drifted into dreams of an endless desert under moonlight. Footprints glowed silver across dunes, leading to a pavilion of white silk. The wolf stood guarding the entrance. Sophia approached, heart steady for once. "Soon," the wolf conveyed, amber eyes fierce. "Awaken with the storm." A clap of thunder jolted her awake. Rain hammered the roof at last, a fierce welcome to thirsty sands. She smiled into the dark, heart beating with a rhythm that no longer felt like just her own. Sophia slipped into the yard while dawn was still a faint smear of violet above the ramparts. Torches sputtered, throwing restless shadows over the pale sand. She drew her practice blade, inhaled the chilly air, and began a silent dance of strikes and counters. Each movement felt sharper than the one before, like the edge of her determination had been honed during the long, sleepless night. Muscles complained, but she folded the ache into her rhythm and drove her boots deeper, letting grit bite her soles as if the earth itself were testing balance. The hiss of sand beneath each pivot became a steady drumbeat that steadied her mind and drowned the uneasy echo of yesterday's pain. Idris emerged from the colonnade, gray streaks framing a look of wary approval. "Already at it," he said, voice low enough not to shatter the fragile morning hush. She didn't pause, sliding into a defensive stance instead of offering greeting. He watched a while, arms folded, then stepped closer. "Your guard is tighter, but don't overextend that right shoulder." He tapped the leather just above her elbow. "You'll gift an opponent the opening you hated yesterday." Sophia adjusted, repeated the sequence, felt the flow improve. Idris nodded once and stepped back. "Push hard, but not past breaking. I've no patience for students who spend their energy nursing torn tendons." Tarek jogged into the yard minutes later, wind-ruffled hair still damp from a bath he must have taken at the crack of dawn. "The sun complained you left bed before it," he teased, grabbing a wooden shield from the rack. Sophia let herself smile. Sun's a late riser, apparently. They moved together, trading slow practice blows. Tarek's grin slipped as he noticed her faster parries and the iron in her stare. "You're going to leave the rest of us choking on dust." She countered with a low sweep that would have clipped his knee if he hadn't hopped back. "Then keep up," she said, pulse steady despite the playful barb. He gave a mock salute with the shield and redoubled his pace. Behind them, Lala leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, supposedly stretching her calves. She said nothing, only tracked Sophia's every pivot. Yesterday, those watchers' eyes had been contemptuous. This morning, they were measuring. When Idris called the formal session to order, Lala moved into the sparring circle opposite a lanky boy but kept half her attention on Sophia's match with Tarek. At the end of the drill, she approached to reset practice weapons and paused. "Shield angle was better," she muttered, voice stiff with reluctance. Sophia blinked at the unexpected remark. Thank you." Lala shrugged and walked off before the compliment could gather weight. Breakfast in the refectory meant rows of stone tables and a low, dull roar of conversation. Sophia carried her tin plate toward Tarek and Lale when Zara's bright laugh sliced through the clamor. The harem's lead consort reclined on a cushioned bench near the entrance, flanked by two younger she-wolves who poured sweet tea into delicate cups. Zara's gaze snagged on Sophia. "Careful," she called, voice gliding over talk like oil over water. "Training dust clings to those who sweat too much. Wouldn't want it in anyone's bread." A few novices smirked, others frowned. Sophia kept walking. She set her plate down and met Zara's stare in a calm, unbroken line, until the consort lifted her cup again, throat tightening around unsaid words. Aaliyah appeared at Sophia's side after the meal, her eyes soft and sea green, flicked toward the harem table. "Zara's claws sharpen whenever silence answers her," she warned. "Expect something more creative than insult soon." Sophia considered that, then calmly folded the linen she'd used as a napkin. "Silence isn't weakness," she said. "It's space to swing." Aaliyah's lips curved in a ghost of approval. "Just remember she commands more shadows than sunlight. Wear armor you can't see." Later, while washing dust from a tunic in the small laundry court, Sophia found the garment's right sleeve slashed just below the shoulder seam, a neat, careful cut that would rip open the instant she lifted her arm in practice. No one was around, but the faint scent of Zara's rose oil lingered under the soap and steam. Sophia exhaled through her nose and carried the tunic to Thora in the infirmary. The elder's hands were steady with needle and thread despite her years. "Poison rarely lies in the blade," Thora murmured while stitching. "It settles in the wound afterward if you let it." Sophia nodded, noting the advice as another lesson to fold into muscle and marrow. She thanked Thora and stepped into the central garden, hoping for a moment of stillness. Sunlight filtered through trellised vines heavy with purple blossoms. Birds chattered overhead. She almost missed the soft click of sandals on stone until Zara's voice drifted near a marble fountain. One would think a northern waif would appreciate gifts. Sophia turned to find the consort gliding closer, Aaliyah a few paces behind, expression tense. Zara produced a small dagger from her sleeve, its jeweled hilt glinting. "Shall I teach you sewing, or are tunics too advanced?" Sophia's pulse jumped, but she forced her voice calm. "I prefer steel with more bite." Zara's laugh rang sweet and brittle. "Bite is earned, not borrowed." Sophia stepped nearer, refusing to back away. "Then call for a proper match. Otherwise, keep playing dressmaker." Murmurs rose from women at the garden's edge. Zara's smile flattened. She sheathed the dagger and brushed past, perfume swirling like a threat. Aaliyah lingered, eyes shining with pride. "The garden grows thorns," she whispered before following. From a shaded corridor on the second level, Arslan watched the exchange. The breeze fluttered the hem of his tunic, but he hardly felt it. His attention fixed on the way Sophia straightened her shoulders, on the spark in her eyes that hadn't existed weeks ago. His wolf paced inside his chest like a caged storm. "She grows into the strength we sensed," the wolf insisted. "You deny her, you deny us." Arslan clenched the carved balustrade hard enough to blanch knuckles. "She courts danger," he murmured. The wolf snarled. "She meets danger. She will match us." Shame and longing tangled like twin blades in Arslan's gut. Bashir found him there and waited until the silence stretched thin. "You can't watch forever," he said. Arslan's jaw tightened. "Observation is safer than engagement." Bashir's gaze flicked toward the garden below, where Sophia now practiced slow spear forms alone. "Safe for whom?" he asked gently. Arslan's throat worked. "For everyone." The wolf scoffed. "For no one. We were forged for her." Bashir stepped forward, voice low. "Strength sometimes hides behind fear, my friend. Don't mistake self-preservation for wisdom." Arslan's eyes flashed with old pain. "I learned wisdom in blood," he said, then turned on heel, leaving Bashir to the fresh scent of crushed blossoms and the distant echo of a lonely sparring rhythm. Sophia continued spear drills until sweat soaked through the repaired tunic. She felt eyes on her even when the garden emptied, a pressure at the nape of her neck like warm breath. Each thrust blurred into the next until the pole vibrated in her palms and the world narrowed to the whisper of wood through air. The inner warmth she'd sensed in previous days suddenly pulsed, expanding in her chest like a second heartbeat. She froze, spear tip hovering. A faint sensation, protective, fierce, wrapped around her spine before fading just as quickly. She swallowed hard. Not imagination. Asena, she thought, the name ringing silent bells in her skull even though she had never truly spoken it. Her hand tightened on the spear shaft. "I know you're there," she murmured. No word replied, but warmth answered nonetheless. Lala intercepted Sophia on her way back to the barracks. She frowned at the torn sleeve now neatly mended. "Zara's games escalate," she said quietly. Sophia blinked at the sudden concern. "You speak as if you mind." Lila shrugged. "I'm no friend to northern outsiders, but I dislike cowards." She hesitated, then added, "Your pivot mid-parry this morning. Show me again sometime." Sophia gave a small nod. "Tomorrow, before sunrise?" Lale looked surprised, then pleased, and strode off. That night Thora rubbed liniment into Sophia's aching shoulders. Candlelight flickered over rows of tinctures. "Rest matters," Thora said. "Even swords break if hammered without quenching." Sophia rolled her neck. "Sleep feels like surrender." Thora smiled sadly. "Sleep is battlefield and refuge both. Dreams know truths. Daylight forgets." Sophia remembered flashes of moonlit halls and a silver wolf. "I'm starting to believe that," she whispered. She tried to rest, yet the moment her eyes drifted shut, the luminous corridor unfolded again. Pillars of white stone stretched skyward, their bases wreathed in pale fire. The black wolf with the silver nose paced before an arched doorway, impatience in every lash of its tail. Sophia moved toward it. This time, when she reached out, she felt the hot press of breath against her palm. A tremor of recognition raced through her veins. No words, just presence. Ancient, certain. She startled awake, the image flickering like lightning behind closed lids. Wind rattled the shutters. She pushed up on her pallet, heart hammering. "Asina." She breathed into the shadows. The warmth returned, throbbing beneath her ribs. She hugged herself, senses tingling with new certainty that something deep within had heard and answered. Above, the sleeping palace cloud slid across the moon. In his private quarters, Arslan stood shirtless at the window, sweat cooling on his skin after a failed attempt to run memories from his mind. His wolf prowled just beneath, pressing fiery paws against the bars of his denial. "Let her in," it pleaded. "We cannot hold against the tide." Arslan squeezed the window ledge and bowed his head. "If the tide drowns her too?" Pain tightened his chest. The wolf's reply rumbled within. "Better to swim together than watch her drown alone." Arslan closed his eyes, breathing her name without sound, then turned away, shoulders heavy with unresolved storms. Sophia rose before the courtyard lanterns had been doused, a fragile gray dawn pooling over roof tiles slick from night mist. The air tasted of damp iron. She strapped on her repaired tunic and bracers, but a prickling sense of unease clung to her skin. As she crossed the garden, she noticed petals scattered like crimson coins on the path, roses from Zara's favored bushes, torn and trodden. Bad omen, she thought, though she refused to show it. Captain Idris was already waiting in the training yard, arms folded, eyes steely beneath thick brows. Tariq, Lala, and half the novices stood in a loose semicircle around a raised platform that had not been there yesterday. 2 torch poles flanked it, flaring despite the gray light. Atop the platform paced a tall warrior clad in midnight armor, helm under one arm, expression carved from stone. He looked older than most soldiers, but carried himself like a man who had never tasted defeat. Sophia slowed. Idris's voice was low but carried. "This is Captain Nadir. He commands the Sultan's frontline phalanx. Today he spars a volunteer to demonstrate advanced footwork." His gaze slid to Sophia. She felt dozens of eyes follow. The prickle intensified. She stepped forward before her courage could wilt. "I'll go," she said, pulse drumming. Lala whispered something behind her, half warning, half awe. Tariq shifted uneasily. Idris merely inclined his head, though a shadow crossed his features. Nadir's dark eyes raked Sophia from boots to braid. His lips curved in the barest nod. He drew 2 polished wooden scimitars from a rack on the platform and tossed her one. It spun once in the air. She caught it by the leather grip, noting its heavier weight. "Rule is simple," Nadir said, voice rough as gravel. "Stay standing." Sophia mounted the platform. The boards flexed under their combined weight. She squared her stance, heartbeat thudding in her ears. Idris signaled with a lowered hand. Nadir attacked immediately. No testing jabs, only a full, sweeping arc. She blocked by instinct, arms shuddering. Shock jarred her bones. He followed with a low thrust. She danced back, breath hissing. Sandbags under the planks muffled steps, making his boots almost silent. He pressed, each strike precise, trying to crowd her edge. She angled away, using the platform's width, remembering Idris's lessons. Keep knees bent, anticipate the next blade rather than react to the current one. Crowd murmurs blurred. Nadir scored a glancing blow on her shoulder. Blunted wood, but force enough to bruise. She countered with a diagonal cut, surprising him. The crack of contact rang through the yard. A male voice called approval. "Lale?" Nadir's brows lifted. Not bad. He pivoted and slammed the scimitar down. She blocked overhead, knees almost buckling. Pain streaked her arms. As she slid sideways, her right boot caught on something. A slick smear of oil, barely visible, glistened on the board. She wrenched free a heartbeat before his blade touched where her head had been. The deliberate sabotage flashed in her mind. Zara's roses crushed in the garden. Maybe she'd bribed a servant to grease the platform at dawn. Anger fueled adrenaline. She spun low, swiping at Nadir's ankle. He leapt, twirled midair, and landed with blade outstretched inches from her rib. She parried, drove her shoulder into his chest, pushing him back. Gasps erupted as she regained footing. From the cloister arch, Arslan watched, arms folded tight, golden eyes narrow. His wolf exhaled a pleased growl Sophia couldn't hear, but felt bristle across the air. She risked glancing toward him. Heat surged up her spine. "Focus," she scolded herself. Nadir shifted tactics, launching a rapid flurry. Sophia blocked, slipped, caught herself, then lunged under his guard and struck his hip. Wood thudded. Surprise flickered across his face. Respect followed. He stepped back, circling. She felt it then. A throb beneath her ribs, echoing the pulse in her throat, but deeper, older. Asina. The warmth spread, chasing away ache, sharpening sight. Nadir charged. She read his movement fractions sooner and sidestepped, pivoting to slice his exposed flank. He twisted at the last second, blade humming past her ear. Split ends of hair drifted down. He lunged again, this time a feint into a spinning backhand. As he turned, her foot skidded across another slick patch. Balance tipped. She would fall. His scimitar would scuff her temple and declare his win. The heat flared into a blazing surge. Time thickened. Something inside roared a single command. Rise. Her muscles obeyed with startling speed, weight shifting to her other foot. She ducked under his swing, came up wrapped in fire and instinct, and jabbed. The wooden blade halted at his throat, breath away. Silence. Then cheers erupted, scattered but genuine. Tarek whooped, fists pumping. Lolly shouted, "Yes!" before clapping a hand over her mouth. Nadir's brows climbed. He stepped back, touched the tip of the sword still at his throat, then pushed it gently aside. "Yield," he said, voice calm if winded. He dropped to one knee in salute. Murmurs spread. Custom dictated only nobles deserved that span of respect. Arslan strode forward. Idris joined him. The Sultan's gaze swept over the oiled patch glinting under torchlight, then locked on Sophia's battered stance. Storm brewed in his eyes. He ascended the platform. "Who prepared this?" he asked, voice cold enough to frost glass. No one answered. He sniffed lightly, catching rose and spice. His gaze flicked toward the distant harem corridor. His wolf snarled. "Sabotage against our mate." Sophia swayed, exhaustion crashing now that heat faded. Her sword arm trembled. Arslan reached to steady her before thinking, fingers closing around her elbow. The touch sparked energy through her bones, startling them both. She stiffened but didn't pull away. Gasps rippled. He released her quickly. "Escort Captain Nadir to the medic," Arslan told Idris. "Commendation for honorable display." He turned to Sophia. "And you. Come." He jumped off the platform without waiting, striding toward the palace. Whispers chased them. Speculation fermented like wine. Inside a sparsely furnished room near the training yard, Arslan motioned for her to sit on a low bench. Bashir entered behind them, closing the door. Sophia swallowed against the drum in her ears. "I wanted to test limits," Arslan said, pacing. "I didn't sanction sabotage." She lifted her chin. "I handled it." His jaw flexed. "You could have cracked your skull." "I could have, but I didn't." The ember flared, Asena's pride echoing her words. She heard a vague hum, a buried purr. Arslan's wolf spoke in his mind, approval mixing with desire. "Claim her. Stop punishing us." Arslan grimaced, rubbing stiff fingers along his temple. Bashir intervened. Sabotage means enemies inside. Zara, perhaps. But jealousy cuts deeper when unchallenged. He looked at Sophia. You earned more than respect today. Rumors will spread faster than wildfire. She exhaled. That's not my aim. Nevertheless, Bashir said gently, your courage ignited them. He faced Arslan. Every witness saw you move to protect her. Arslan's cheeks darkened. I would protect any trainee endangered by foul play. We both know that's not why your wolf roared out in the yard, Bashir said quietly. Silence thickened. Sophia broke it. Your wolf? She asked. Arslan's gaze snapped to hers, pained and resentful. He turned away. Bashir guided her to the infirmary. Thora tisked over bruises, smoothed salve across reddened skin. As fingers worked, Thora murmured a prayer to ancient moon spirits. Sophia's eyelids drooped. Visions flickered, a moonlit palace courtyard paved in white crystal. A woman in a silver thread gown standing in an arch, arms open. The black wolf with the silver nose looming beside her like a guardian. Sophia inhaled sharply. Thora paused. You saw something? The elder whispered. A glimpse of roots buried deep. Sophia licked dry lips. A palace. Flames of moonlight. And a mother I lost. Thora's owl-bright eyes softened. Truth waits to be claimed, child. Keep seeking. That evening, palace courtyards buzzed with gossip. Tarek told anyone who would listen how Sophia outmaneuvered Nadir. Lala silently echoed the story, eyes shining with something like loyalty. Zara strained to control whispers. She summoned her clique, but uneasy glances spread among them. Aaliyah visited Sophia in the infirmary, bringing fresh bread and honey. You humiliated her, she said quietly, pride obvious. She's plotting. Sophia's throat tightened. Let her plan. I'll keep training. Night fell heavy. Sophia slipped outside, barefoot on cool stone, chasing air that tasted of distant rain. The main courtyard lay deserted under torchlight. She hesitated, then walked to the center, breathing slow. Heat pulsed again under her sternum. She closed her eyes. Asina, she whispered, steady voice. Show me. A warm breeze curled around her, though the air had been still. In her mind, a door swung open. Marble halls returned, but clearer, brighter. She stood on a dais carved with swirling runes. The silver-nosed wolf padded forward. This time its voice was a cascade of feelings shaped into words. I am here. We are one. Sophia's breath caught. Why now? She asked inside the dream. Because you chose courage over fear. The wolf brushed its muzzle against her chest. Memories rushed in, images of her as a toddler chasing glowing fireflies in a lush courtyard. A man in moon-white armor lifting her into swirling night. A crest shaped like entwined moons crowned by a silver wolf. The magic pack. Sophia gasped awake on her feet, knees weak. Dawn was nowhere. Only the hush of midnight and the knowledge roaring inside, a certainty she was not wolfless, never had been. She was royalty of the long-lost pack who wielded genie magic. The truth hammered like a drum. She sank to the ground, laughing and crying at once, arms wrapped around herself as warmth enveloped her in fierce embrace. Asena, fully awake, settled inside her mind with contented triumph, a voice ready to guide. Minutes or hours later she rose, resolve hard as tempered steel. Tomorrow she would face Zara, the harem, the whispers, and Arslan himself with new eyes. The daughter of the magic pack would not bow to fate, she would shape it. On a high balcony, Arslan felt a surge of energy ripple through the bond, electric and undeniable. His wolf lifted its head, howling inside his chest in exultation. The moment he had feared and yearned for had arrived. He gripped the rail until his knuckles whitened. Sophia, he whispered into the night, fear and wonder braided tight. Below, she looked up, sensing him, even through darkness. Their eyes did not meet, yet both felt the shift. Nothing now could stay the tide. A rim of gold crept over the horizon, tinting the palace tiles pink as morning trumpets sounded. Sophia lay awake on her pallet, pulse steady, Asena's presence wrapped around her like a warm cloak. She felt no exhaustion despite a sleepless night. Instead, there was an effervescent clarity humming beneath her skin, as though new sinew had grown beneath every bruise. Lena stirred beside her and blinked up. "You're glowing," the girl whispered, half-dazed. "Must be the sunrise," Sophia teased, smoothing Lena's hair. She rose, laced her boots, and stepped into the corridor. Even the stone beneath her feet seemed to hum back recognition. In the training yard, Captain Idris raised a brow the instant he saw her. "You look taller." Feeling lighter, she replied, spinning the practice blade once before he could question. Tarek jogged in, offered a mock salute. "Ready to terrify more captains today?" he asked. "We'll see who shakes first." She winked and slid into position. They began with partner drills. Every block, every feint felt preordained. Asena whispered angles into Sophia's muscles. Lala, sparring nearby, tripped on her own surprise when Sophia caught a returning cut mid-air and redirected it into a graceful disarm. Wood clacked to the sand. Lala gaped, then let out a stunned laugh. "I was trying to compliment you," she muttered, retrieving the weapon. "You did," Sophia answered, offering a hand. Lala took it, respect settling like a new treaty. From the upper terrace, Arslan watched, one palm braced against a carved pillar. His wolf surged with pride. "She changed overnight," the wolf crowed. "We must stand at her side." Arslan's gut twisted. Reverence battled dread. Bashir approached. "You feel it too," he said softly. "I feel a storm I cannot name," Arslan whispered back. "Name it or not, it is upon us, and you can't close the gates this time." Arslan's reply was lost in a roar from the yard. Zara swept in with half the harem, silks snapping, eyes glittering. She strode straight to the edge of the sparring ring. "Morning drills grow dull," she announced, voice bright. "Perhaps a display of grace would better serve the Sultan's court." Idris bristled. "The yard is for blades, not fans." Zara ignored him, snapping open a slender staff tipped with ribbons. "Athena," she called, beckoning a young she-wolf forward. "Show them perfection." The girl launched into a twirling routine, ribbons slicing the air. At first it was harmless flash, but Zara's eyes never left Sophia. Without warning, Athena whipped the staff wide, ribbons flicking toward Sophia's face. A cheap distraction, meant to humiliate. Sophia's sword moved faster than thought. She caught the ribbon's edge on the tip, twisted, and snapped it free in one smooth flourish. Gasps rippled. Athena stumbled back. The severed ribbon fluttered to the sand like a fallen petal. Zara's smile fractured. Idris stepped in, planting himself between them. "Enough," his voice boomed. "Weapons, real or decorated, stay in their lanes." Sophia handed the ribbon to Athena and bowed. "Grace in all things," she said quietly. Athena's cheeks reddened with embarrassment, but her eyes held reluctant admiration. Zara glared, nostrils flaring. Before she could retort, Arslan's voice descended from the terrace. "Zara," his tone silenced the yard. "Return the staff to the dance hall." Zara bowed, silk whispering, "As you wish, my lord." She turned, fury tight in her shoulders. Arslan descended the stairs, boots thumping. He stopped before Sophia. The entire yard seemed to lean closer. "Come," he said simply. She followed him to a shaded alcove. Bashir remained a discreet distance. Arslan faced her, eyes turbulent. "I felt something last night, through the bond." Her pulse quickened, but fear no longer followed. "I found my wolf," she said. "Or she found me." A flicker of awe parted the lines in his brow. "You heard her?" "I hear her now," Sophia replied. "She says you're stubborn." A startled laugh escaped him. Half pain, half relief. His wolf barked jubilant agreement. "And she?" he asked softly. "She is Asina. She remembers everything I lost." Emotion thickened her voice. "Including who I am." Arslan's breath hitched. "Who are you?" Before she could answer, a messenger sprinted up, breathless. "My Sultan. Trouble in the North Wing. Captain Nadir caught saboteurs near the weapon stores." Arslan stiffened. "Zara?" "Her maids, at least." Bashir cursed under his breath. Arslan's gaze snapped to Sophia. An unspoken apology and urgency mingled. "Stay close to Idris," he ordered. "This is not finished." Sophia nodded. "Go." He strode off with Bashir and the messenger. Idris hustled trainees toward barracks. "Inside, all of you. Trouble's brewing." Tarek jogged beside Sophia. "Seems you're at the eye of every storm." "Better than hiding from one," she replied. But dread coiled. If Zara's maids were caught near weapon stores, what had they planned? Inside the barracks, tension simmered. Layla peered through slats in the shutter. "Soldiers everywhere," she whispered. Sophia flexed her fingers. Asina rumbled soothingly. Hours passed. Evening sun slanted through latticed windows when Idris finally returned, face grim. "Saboteurs planted oil near the armory doors," he explained. "Could have burned half the palace." His gaze found Sophia. "They confessed Zara set the plan after Captain Nadir kneeled to you." Murmurs erupted. Tarek swore softly. Lala muttered, "Jealous snake." Sophia's stomach clenched. "Where is Zara now?" "Under guard until judgment." Idris's tone held grim satisfaction. "The Sultan wants to speak with you." She followed him through echoing corridors to a narrow tower room lined with stained glass. Arslan stood at the far window. Moonlight spilled across mosaic floors. Bashir waited near the door. Arslan turned. The lines of command on his face remained, but raw weariness shadowed his eyes. "Zara has been exiled," he said quietly. "Her ambition crossed the line into treason." Sophia swallowed. "I never wanted that." "You wanted survival," he corrected, "and earned enemies by refusing their chains." He exhaled. "My wolf pushes me to speak truth." Bashir slipped out, closing the door. Arslan approached. "The bond is real, stronger now that your wolf is awake. I swore never to surrender to fate again, yet the more I fight it, the more pain I cause." Sophia's heartbeat echoed Asena's steady thrum. "Pain isn't the same as weakness." "Nor is grief the same as strength," he replied. He lifted a hand toward her cheek, stopped. "I once believed a mate had to be forged in battle beside me, yet you crossed harsher terrain alone." "I wasn't alone last night," she touched her chest. "Not anymore." Arslan's wolf pressed closer, voice a low thunder only he heard. "Claim her. Heal together." He looked into Sophia's eyes, emerald green lit by silver flecks she hadn't possessed days ago. Royal eyes, he thought. "Tell me who you are," he whispered. She drew breath. "Daughter of the magic pack. The lost bloodline that wielded genie gifts. I don't know how I survived or why memory hid itself, but Asena remembers." Emotion wavered her voice. "And I remember her." The revelation rolled through him. A shock, yes, but a relief too. Her strength had always been there, waiting. "Magic pack," he smiled faintly. "No wonder you walked through chains like smoke." A silence stretched, no tension, only a tremulous sense of beginning. Sophia felt Asena nudge her mind. "You are safe." She allowed herself a small smile. "Where does this leave us?" "With choices," Arslan said. "Fate offers. We decide." He extended his hand. Not a command, not a claim, an invitation. Sophia placed her hand in his. Warmth surged, 2 heartbeats syncing. The wolf inside Arslan hummed contentment. Asena's joy washed Sophia's nerves away. They stood wrapped in moonlight, uncertainty vast but no longer frightening. Distant drums signaled the changing of the palace watch. Arslan squeezed her fingers once, then released. Rest. You'll need strength. Northern politics will stir when they learn the lost princess breathes. And southern gossip has already sprinted ahead of us, she noted, earning a dry chuckle from him. He opened the door. Bashir waited outside, expression soft. Walk her back, Arslan said. Bashir nodded, leading Sophia down torchlit stairs. Halfway along, Bashir spoke quietly. I've served the Sultan since boyhood. I've never seen him trust fate. Does he now? He trusts you. Bashir smiled. Or wants to. Sophia clasped his arm in thanks and slipped into the sleeping wing. Aliyah waited by her door, relief brightening her face. Is it true? Zara's gone? Exiled beyond the southern dunes. Aliyah exhaled. Then the harem may breathe again. She stepped closer. And you? I'm still breathing, Sophia answered. Stronger. Aliyah touched her forehead lightly, a gesture of blessing. Moon guide you, sister. Inside her chamber, Lena slept soundly, clutching a rag doll. Thora dozed in a nearby chair, open book on her lap. Sophia eased onto her pallet, closed her eyes, and drifted. In dream, she stood before the palace of crystal and moonlight once more. This time, the grand doors opened. Figures waited. A regal woman whose eyes matched Sophia's. A proud man with a silver wolf crest. Warriors lining the hall. Asena paced at her side, fur sleek, silver muzzle lifted. The figures bowed. Welcome home, daughter of the moon. Sophia woke at dawn, tears on her cheeks but heart steady. Outside, sparrows heralded a brilliant sunrise. She rose, rolled her shoulders, and reached for her blade. Lighter now, as if metal recognized a new purpose. Today she would train not just to survive, but to claim destiny. Across the palace, Arslan stood at the balcony where he first watched her spar. He felt her waking through the bond, a soft flare of conviction, echoing his own. His wolf rested, for once content. Soon, he murmured to the rising sun, we will walk the same path. The morning trumpets blared. The palace began to stir, unaware that two hearts, once divided by grief and doubt, had begun to beat in a single rhythm, heralding a new era neither north nor south could ignore. Sophia flowed through her morning drills with a smoothness that startled even her. Every pivot felt as if Asena's paws were guiding her feet across the sand, and each cut from her practice sword hummed with subtle energy. The sun was only a pale promise on the horizon, yet she was already slick with exertion. Asena's low, amused voice curled inside her mind. We make quite a pair now. No more wobbling on oily planks. Sophia kept her breathing steady. Maybe we could leave the humiliation stories in yesterday. Only if you keep listening. A playful flick of emotion followed the words. Equal parts pride and protectiveness. Captain Idris watched from beneath the training awning, arms folded and eyes keen. Your footwork has tightened, he called. No wasted steps. She finished the combination, grounded her stance, and bowed lightly. I have a new coach, she said, tapping her temple. Idris's mouth quirked. Then remind your coach the rest of us need to catch up. He signaled for Tariq and Lala to join. They jogged over, both grinning. Tariq leaned on his practice spear. At this rate, she'll be teaching the whole regiment. Good, Lala said, tossing him a wooden shield. Maybe then you'll stop tripping over your own ambition. Tariq laughed, but his eyes shone with genuine admiration as he met Sophia's. I swear you glow in the dark now, Asena purred. Tell him it's the new moisturizer, lunar radiance. Sophia bit back a chuckle. Early sunrise, that's all. She settled into a sparring stance opposite Lale. Ready? Absolutely not, Lala replied, raising her sword anyway. They moved. Blades cracked, shields thudded, and laughter peppered the air whenever Tarek shouted half-serious advice from the sidelines. Idris corrected posture, his tone approving. Bashir soon appeared at the colonnade entrance, leaning on a railing. His soft smile watched every exchange with the quiet pride of an uncle observing talented nieces and nephews. When Drills paused for water, Bashir approached Sophia. "Your aura has changed," he said, offering a flask. "Less storm, more sunrise." "Still figuring out what that means," she admitted. "You'll have time to learn," he replied. "The Sultan asked you to join him at mid-morning. Terrace garden." Sophia's pulse ticked faster, but she nodded. "I'll be there." Asena hummed. "Our mate summons. Try not to trip over your own ankle like the first week. I was dragged in chains that day, remember? All the more reason to stand tall now." She excused herself to wash and change. Thora waited near the baths with a fresh tunic the color of honeyed cream and a sash dyed soft blue. "Wear this," the elder said, smoothing the fabric over Sophia's arms. "It reminds me of moonlit water." Sophia traced the cloth, gratitude swelling. "Thank you." Outside the palace's upper terrace was hushed except for cooing doves. Ivy climbed the stone balustrade, and lanterns of blown glass hung unlit, catching the first sunlight. Arslan stood near the edge, cloak drifting in the mild breeze. When he turned, relief flickered across his face as if he feared she might not come. "Morning," she said. "Better now," he replied, voice thick with honesty. "Walk with me." They strolled slowly. Marble tiles cooled her feet through thin shoes. For a time he said nothing, and she let the quiet stretch like silk between them. Finally he exhaled. "I used to stand here at dawn with my first mate," he began. "We'd speak of strengthening borders, of pups, of celebrations yet to come. After she fell, I stopped visiting this place. Too many ghosts." He tapped the balustrade lightly. "I didn't think I'd ever bring someone here again." Sophia's heart thudded. "Thank you for trusting me with the memory." He glanced sideways, gold eyes tender. "You trusted me with your truth yesterday. It's only fair." Asena's presence nudged Sophia's courage. "He opens the gate. Step through." Sophia brushed her hand along the vine-laced railing. "I grew up believing no one would ever call me daughter, much less mate. I lived on scraps. Respect never seemed possible." She inhaled, feeling the words settle in the warm air. "Now, I have a wolf who never doubts me, and a future that still feels like a fragile dream." Arslan halted, turning fully toward her. "Dreams need tending," he murmured. He reached for her hand, hesitated, then linked their fingers. A spark raced up her arm, gentle yet unmistakable. Asena sighed happily. Arslan's wolf rumbled a soft greeting to her through the bond, a pulse of welcome. "I'm afraid," he confessed in a raw whisper. "Not of you, but of losing you." Her thumb swept across the back of his knuckles. "I'm tired of being lost. Let's choose each other on purpose." Their foreheads met, the quiet contact carrying more promise than any grand vow. She felt his breath hitch, his lips touched hers, feather-light, as if asking permission rather than taking. She answered by rising on her toes, deepening the kiss in soft, deliberate warmth. Inside her mind, Asena crooned. Across from her, Arslan's wolf exhaled relief so profound it blossomed as warmth in Sophia's chest. When they parted, dawn had painted their joined shadows in pink-gold light. "I could stay here forever," Arslan said, voice husky. "Unfortunately, politics doesn't sleep in," she replied. He chuckled. "Bashir is already pacing." They walked hand in hand to the war room where Bashir, Idris, and 2 guards waited. Maps cluttered a long table. At Sophia's arrival, Bashir's eyes lit with cautious hope. "Intelligence from the north," he began, gesturing to parchment weighted by polished stones. Several minor packs are uneasy. Rumors of genie magic unsettle them. Sophia scanned the markings. Because legend says genie magic corrupts? Because legend says genie magic cannot be controlled, Idris clarified, voice calm but serious. They fear unpredictable strength. Arslan squeezed her hand before releasing it, stepping toward the table, which is exactly why we bring it into the light. Secrets breed suspicion. Bashir nodded. Announce her title openly, invite the neighboring alphas, offer alliances. Actions before titles, Sophia said. Let them watch me protect our people tonight at the feast. Fear lessens when courage is visible. Bashir's mustache twitched in a smile. Agreed. While final arrangements spun into motion, Sophia trained once more. Between bouts, she laughed with Tarek as they argued over spear angles, helped Lala refine a disarming move, and teased Idris when he praised her too stoically. Word of her new status spread faster than parchment carriers. Servants smiled as she passed. Guards tapped fists to their chests. By sunset, the grand hall blazed with hundreds of lanterns. Silks draped from rafters, musicians tuned lutes and drums, and scents of spiced lamb drifted from copper platters. Aaliyah greeted Sophia at the entrance, eyes shining, hair braided with silver thread. You look like prophecy fulfilled, Aaliyah whispered, adjusting Sophia's sash. And you look like a miracle worker, Sophia replied. They shared a quick hug before joining the gathering. Arslan stood at the far end in robes of midnight blue, Bashir and Idris at each side. He watched Sophia approach, awe plain on his face. The room hushed as he lifted a hand. Brothers and sisters, he began, voice carrying easily. Tonight we welcome one who was lost, now found. He gestured to her. Princess Sophia of the Magic Pack, my chosen mate, the heart that bridges north and south. Many bowed, others blinked in stunned disbelief. Aaliyah stepped forward, graceful as a dancer. I once feared change, she announced, her clear voice ringing. Sophia showed me change is simply courage in motion. She lowered her head in respect. Ripples of acknowledgement spread as harem members inclined heads, even those who had sided with Zara. Lala raised a goblet. To the strongest warrior I know and the kindest. Tarek lifted his too. May she never stop scaring the spit out of us. Laughter broke tension. Sophia's cheeks warmed. She raised her own glass to the crowd, eyes shining. The feast unfolded with music, dance, and stories. Sophia navigated it with newfound ease, sharing warm words with elders and playful barbs with trainees. Throughout, Arslan's gaze tracked her, pride and wonder mingling like blended wine. Later, after musicians packed away instruments and servants cleared platters, Arslan guided Sophia toward a quieter hallway. Lanterns cast soft pools of gold on mosaic floors. He opened a carved door into a chamber bathed in candlelight, pillows strewn across a low couch. Time for politics to rest, he said, voice hushed. He drew her close, hands gentle on her waist. She felt his pulse beneath her palms. I've wanted this peace for so long, he murmured. But it never took shape until you. Sophia's response was a kiss tender yet unashamed. Fingers threaded through his hair, and his arms circled her in cautious strength, as if he still feared she might vanish. She traced a scar near his collarbone, and he shivered. Does it still hurt? She whispered. Only when I remember, he breathed, kissing her brow, cheeks, lips. You turn pain to warmth. As they settled onto the cushions, wolves whispered in harmony. Two voices weaving approval, devotion, and gentle teasing. Their humans spoke softer realities, hopes of shared mornings, of uniting divided lands, of future pups who would never know chains. Hours later, distant bells marked the changing guard. They lay side by side, breath stilling, hearts synced. Then the alarm sounded. A deep horn blared, followed by shouts echoing through corridors. Arslan sprang upright, eyes blazing amber. Sophia rolled to her feet, grabbing her nearby training sword. Iron clashed in the courtyard below. Zara, Arslan growled. His wolf snarled agreement. Sophia's pulse steadied. Asena's voice was a poised blade. Let's finish this. Sophia raced beside Arslan down the wide staircase, bare feet slapping marble as echoes of clashing steel ricocheted through the palace corridors. Candle flames tilted in their wake. She felt the bond hum hot between them. Every breath he drew threaded through her lungs and back again. Asena pressed close in her mind, fierce and focused. We will not be chased this time, we defend. They burst onto a balcony overlooking the central courtyard. Torches flickered below, revealing chaos. Guards wrestled with a swarm of rogues clad in mismatched armor. Sparks flew where blades met claws. Captain Idris barked orders near the archway, a fresh gash bleeding down his temple. Bashir stood at his back, coordinating archers on the ramparts. Arslan's wolf surged forward inside him, voice edged with command. Find the leader, end the frenzy. Arslan spotted a flash of emerald silk and copper hair near the armory doors. Zara. She wielded twin daggers, slashing at a guard who tried to bar her path. Sophia with me, Arslan said, vaulting the balustrade. He landed lightly, shifted into half-wolf mid-stride, muscles rippling, fangs elongating. Sophia followed, vaulting down a lower stair and sprinting across Flagstone Walk, the hum of power coursing through her veins like hot silver. Tarek and Lala emerged from an adjoining hallway, weapons drawn. Rogues breached the west gate, Tarek panted. We've cleared most, but they keep coming. Hold that flank, Sophia ordered without breaking stride. Protect the infirmary and servants. No casualties. Lala grinned despite sweat streaking her cheeks. Yes, princess. Sophia skidded into the courtyard dust. A rogue lunged. She pivoted, kicked his knee sideways and brought her sword pommel down on his skull. He crumpled. Asena purred approval. Ahead, Idris traded blows with a gray-furred wolf nearly twice his size. Sophia sprinted in, parried the wolf's swipe, and slipped under its guard. A quick elbow strike to the snout staggered it, giving Idris an opening to drive his saber into the beast's shoulder. The rogue yelped and bolted into the shadows. Good timing, Idris gasped. He wiped blood from his brow. Zara's after the armory. She plans to torch it. Not on my watch, Sophia said. She sped across the courtyard. At the armory door, Zara stood surrounded by 3 rogues. She brandished a flint striker, sparks falling onto slick puddles of oil spread across the threshold. Flames licked the liquid, racing toward stacked crates of powder. Arslan reached them first, swiping one rogue aside with a roar. His claws raked another's chest, sending it skidding across stone. Zara spun, eyes wide and wild. You never learn, Arslan growled, half-wolf voice rumbling. She laughed, a high brittle sound. And you never see your weaknesses, dear Sultan. You guard the palace but leave the heart exposed. Her gaze flicked to Sophia, approaching. Sophia halted at the blaze, creeping dangerously close to the crates. Heat singed her cheeks. She shoved fear aside. Asena's power surged, a pulse of silver fire behind her ribs. You know what to do. Shape it. Sophia inhaled, reaching inward. Her palms tingled. She slashed her sword into the oil line, scattering burning liquid away from the crates. A wall of silver-white energy shimmered across the threshold, forcing flames to crawl sideways and sputter out against stone. Gasps rose from nearby guards, even Zara faltered. Magic, she hissed. Sophia stepped forward. It's protection, something you forgot long ago. Zara's eyes burned with hate. Protection? You stole everything I fought for. He was meant to choose me. He chose cruelty over partnership, Sophia said softly. You chose envy over sisterhood. Zara darted, daggers flashing for Sophia's throat. Asena's warning roared. Sophia ducked, spun, and swung her blade. She disarmed Zara in 2 strikes, wooden edge cracking dagger hilts. Zara stumbled, heels skidding on oil-slick stone. Arslan's wolf snarled. Finish it. No, Sophia told him through their bond. Mercy leads. Fear follows. She leveled her sword an inch from Zara's pounding heart. Yield. This is your last chance to leave with your life. Zara's shoulders shook. For a moment, anger wavered into despair. Then she sank to her knees, daggers clattering. Rogues still fought in pockets nearby. Bashir strode up, securing Zara's wrists in silver cuffs. Guards hauled the remaining rogues toward holding cells. Smoke drifted from dying fires, the acrid smell of burnt oil mingling with night-blooming jasmine. Arslan approached Sophia, shifting fully human again. Blood streaked his forearm. A shallow cut bled slowly. He cupped her cheek with his free hand. "You're safe?" he asked, voice raw. "Bruised, not broken." She touched the wound on his arm, magic sparking beneath her fingertips. The cut knitted closed. Arslan shivered at the warmth. Bashir issued orders nearby. Idris, secure the gates. Tarek, Lale, sweep the corridors. The trainees snapped salutes and hurried off. Sophia helped guide stunned servants to safety, reassuring them with calm words. Asina hummed a steady drumbeat of pride. "You led well." "That is a queen's heart." Exhaustion hit only when the courtyard quieted. Lanterns flickered, illuminating overturned crates and scorched stone. Arslan wrapped an arm around Sophia's waist. "Let's get you tended," he murmured. She didn't resist as he steered her toward the infirmary. Inside, Thora bustled between cots, passing salve to bandaged trainees. When Sophia entered, Thora's lined face softened with relief. "Minor cuts," Sophia said, lifting her arm to show a shallow slice. Thora dabbed herbal paste and wrapped clean linen. Arslan watched, gaze protective yet gentle. After Thora moved on, he guided Sophia into an adjoining chamber lit by a single lantern. Quiet, cool, smelling of sage. He poured water into a basin, dipped a cloth, and wiped grime from Sophia's cheeks. "You showed mercy," he said softly. "Mercy isn't weakness." She dabbed at a smear of soot on his jaw. "It's strength that remembers pain." His eyes shone gold in the lantern light. "Mate," he whispered, testing the word in open air. It settled between them like sunrise after endless night. "My mate." Her chest warmed. "My alpha." She brushed lips against his knuckles. Their wolves spoke simultaneously, contented voices weaving together. Always. Home. Arslan lowered his forehead to hers. The kiss that followed was slow and grounding, neither hurried nor timid. Two warriors savoring breath after battle. Footsteps echoed, Bashir's gentle knock sounded. "Guests gather in the Great Hall," he called. "They await their heroes." Arslan cracked the door. "We're coming." He offered Sophia his hand. One last task. She twined fingers with his. Together. In the grand hall, survivors and guards lined the walls, torches blazing bright. Bashir announced their entrance. The crowd erupted in cheers. Idris clapped a hand on Tarek's shoulder as the trainees whooped. Lala wiped a tear before grinning wide. Arslan lifted their joined hands. "The palace stands united," he proclaimed. "North and South share one heart." Sophia spoke next, voice ringing clear. "Fear divides, but courage weaves us stronger. Tonight we choose trust." Thunderous applause answered. Aaliyah stepped forward, placing a circlet of pale silver upon Sophia's brow. "For the queen who found her crown in her own strength," she said, bowing deeply. Others followed suit, heads lowered in respect. Even Zara's former supporters knelt. Sophia's eyes blurred with grateful tears. Arslan squeezed her hand, pride radiating. When the hall quieted, music began. Soft strings and drums calling wolves to celebrate life. Trays of fresh bread, roasted game, and fruit replaced empty dishes. Tarek dragged Lyle to dance. Idris accepted a goblet from Bashir, both laughing like old friends. Thora hummed blessings, patting young warriors who blushed under praise. Amid the swirl, Arslan drew Sophia to the edge of the hall. "Fresh air?" he murmured. She nodded. They climbed a spiral stair to the highest tower. Cool night wrapped them. Below, lanterns dotted rooftops like fallen stars. A gentle breeze carried scents of citrus and distant rain. Arslan draped a cloak over her shoulders. When I lost my first mate, I thought the world had spent its kindness. He brushed stray hair from her face. But fate doesn't recycle love. It grows it anew. She rested a palm over his heart. We'll nurture it together. Asena's contented sigh echoed inside her chest. Arslan's wolf rumbled promise. They gazed across their united lands, desert stretching south, lush forests north, no longer borders, but tapestries woven by their choices. Sophia turned to him with a smile that felt like dawn. Ready for whatever comes? With you, always. He kissed her gently, sealing vow and future under the wide, whispering sky. Moonlit silence wrapped Sophia and Arslan on the tower, until the last torches flickered out in the courtyards below. Only then did fatigue settle into Sophia's limbs, a sweet heaviness earned through survival. Asena whispered we should eat, or at least stretch. All that glory won't fill an empty belly. Sophia answered the tease with a smile and brushed her lips once more over Arslan's cheek. We should head back, she murmured. He kept her hand tucked under his arm while they descended the narrow spiral. In the corridor, they collided with Bashir, who balanced a tray of cheese, figs, and warm flatbread. I suspected you'd forget supper, he said, eyes twinkling. Fuel before politics resumes at dawn. Arslan chuckled. Ever the strategist. They found a quiet alcove between storerooms. Sitting cross-legged on a woven mat, Sophia devoured figs, juice dripping down her wrist. Arslan tore bread into pieces, handing her the center still steaming. Bashir leaned against a column, sipping watered wine. The hall's calming, he reported. Idris has patrols doubled. Zara and the rogues are secured for transport to the eastern frontier come sunrise. She'll stand trial before the High Council there. Sophia swallowed a bite. No execution? Exile, Bashir confirmed. Northern and Southern laws share that sentence for treason that spares civilian lives. She nodded, thankful mercy remained consistent. A yawn escaped despite her attempt to stifle it. Arslan caught the sound and helped her stand. Sleep. Council meets at mid-morning. They parted at Sophia's chamber. Inside, Lena slept curled around her doll, untroubled by recent chaos. Thora sat nearby with a half-knit shawl. At Sophia's entrance, the elder set needles aside. Battle ways, but heart still beat. She pressed a small vial of lavender oil into Sophia's palm. For restful dreams. Sophia kissed her cheek and slid beneath blankets, exhaustion pulling her into darkness. Dreams came, but gentle ones. An endless field of silver grass where Asena trotted at her side, and Arslan's wolf loped ahead, glancing back in playful challenge. She woke to birdsong and sunlight pooling across the floorboards. Linen sheets had tangled about her ankles. She untwisted herself and dressed in trousers and a light tunic embroidered with a subtle crescent moon crest, courtesy of the palace seamstresses who had evidently made night work of her wardrobe. Council assembled in a vaulted chamber bright with stained glass windows. Representatives of nearby packs arrived at dawn, tension visible in rigid shoulders and nervous eye flicks. Sophia entered beside Arslan, Bashir, and Idris flanking. Tariq and Lala stood guard near the door, spears crossed in ceremonial salute. An elder from the Howling Fur Pack spoke first, voice quavering. Is it true? Genie blood walks among us? Sophia stepped forward before Arslan could. I hold the blood, she answered, but it threatens no one who seeks peace. She raised her hands, letting a soft silver glow dance across her palms. Gasps rustled through the hall. Even Bashir's brows climbed at the display's gentle beauty, rather than raw power. She closed her fists. This gift shields more than it destroys. I will wield it to mend, not conquer. Murmurs shifted, skepticism softening into wary intrigue. Another envoy, a stout woman with scarred knuckles, studied Sophia's calm stance. Show us action, she said. Words fade. Arslan signaled. Guards opened side doors, revealing hissed whispers among onlookers as Zara and her rogues were marched through, bound, but unharmed. These attackers threatened every soul beneath this roof, Arslan declared. They stand alive, because Sophia fought with strength and mercy. He gestured for the envoys to inspect the prisoner's wounds. Bandaged, tended. Let that be proof. The stout envoy's wolf spoke within her, voice low enough Sophia couldn't hear, but she witnessed the woman's nod of grudging respect. Strength tempered, the envoy said, better than fire unchecked. Bashir outlined terms for alliance, shared patrols along northern passes, trade of medical herbs for desert steel, invitation to a midsummer moot so northern alphas could judge Sophia's character themselves. By the meeting's end, most representatives had signed parchment seals pledging at least neutrality. Afterward, Sophia stood on the balcony outside the chamber, wind lifting stray hairs. Aliyah joined her, carrying 2 cups of sweet mint tea. Council halls smell like dust and nerves, Aliyah noted. You carried yourself as if you'd done this for years. Mostly I tried not to sweat through embroidery. Sophia accepted the cup. Thank you for last night. Your words turned hearts. I spoke truth, Aliyah said. She lifted her cup in salute. To new moons. Tarek bounded up with Lale on his heels. Idris wants you both in the yard, he told Sophia, eyes alight. Joint drills with northern envoys. They're curious. Sophia grinned. Let's show them hospitality then. On the training field, Sophia demonstrated defensive maneuvers with Lale, while Tarek narrated with theatrical flair. Laughter rippled among envoys. Tension further diffused. Even the once skeptical elder tried a practice sword, guided patiently by Idris. Afternoon heat passed in camaraderie. When the sun dipped, the palace staff transformed the courtyard into festival grounds. Banners of blue and silver draped parapets. Musicians tuned to lively rhythms. Tables laden with saffron rice, roasted quail and honey pastries lined the walls. Sophia arrived wearing a flowing gown of midnight with silver embroidery that matched Asena's nose. Arslan donned a deep indigo robe cinched with a steel clasp shaped like twin wolves. When they met near the fountain, disbelief flickered across his features. You outshine the lanterns, he whispered. She brushed a fingertip over the healed cut on his forearm. And you outshine my fears. They joined the crowd. Mid-feast, Bashir rose, goblet lifted. We gather in unity, he gestured to Arslan and Sophia. North and south bound by courage and love. Cheers answered. Tarek banged the bottom of a drum, launching music. He spun Lale into a whirling dance. Idris barked a laugh when Bashir tugged him into the rhythm. Envoys and palace servants alike joined until wide circles of dancers rippled like petals in wind. Sophia hesitated at the edge, but Arslan drew her hand to his chest. Dance with me. He kept his steps slow, guiding her through the pattern. Asena offered tips. Left foot first, silly, and Sophia giggled despite herself. Soon they moved in fluid time, wolves humming approval. Hours later, lantern light shimmered across emptied plates. Thora sat near the fountain, blessing weary dancers. Sophia settled beside her, resting against a marble ledge. When I was small, Thora said, I served a queen who danced every midwinter. You remind me of her grace tonight. Sophia's throat tightened. Thank you for believing in me. She pulled the shawl Thora had knitted over the elder's shoulders. The crowd thinned. Arslan found Sophia and inclined his head toward the tower stair. She followed. No guards trailed them. Peace blanketed the palace like soft snow. High on the tower balcony, moonlight painted the stone silver. Desert stretched south, forests north, both luminous under the night sky. Arslan pulled her gently against him. My people were born from fire, he said, brushing hair from her face. Yours from moonlight. Yet here we stand. Fire needs moonlit tides to temper sparks, she replied, hands warming his chest. He smiled, eyes soft. I once thought love stole strength. Now I know it grants it. His lips captured hers, slow and sure. Wolves murmured approval in their minds, words of devotion layered with contented growls. They pulled back, foreheads touching. "Tell me something ordinary," he whispered. She laughed. "I like peach pastries for breakfast." He grinned. "I hate olives." "We can negotiate menu treaties," she said. He kissed her nose, and done. A beat of silence followed. Comfortable, infinite. "Are you happy?" Her answer was a kiss that tasted like yes. Below, a lone horn sounded, a gentle call signaling the closing of gates. Peace was official. Sophia exhaled, absorbing the melody of quiet guards and distant crickets. Asena rested inside her mind, stretching like a satisfied cat. "We did well," Arslan's wolf replied, deep, mellow. Home at last. Days turned to a week. Repairs finished on scorched stone near the armory. New banners bearing entwined crescents fluttered above gates. Envoys departed with full bellies and hopeful letters for their councils. The palace found steady rhythm, joint patrol drills at dawn, Aaliyah's diplomatic teas, Thora's healing circles. One morning, Sophia walked the garden path where she'd once faced Zara among crushed roses. Fresh buds had opened, red as sunrise. She clipped 3 and carried them to the harem wing. Inside, former rivals now organized silks for trade caravans. They paused when she entered. Sophia placed the roses in a crystal vase. "For new beginnings," she said. Soft smiles met hers. Athena stepped forward, tied a silver ribbon around the vase, and bowed. That night, Sophia and Arslan met Bashir, Idris, Tarek, Lala, Aaliyah, and Thora for supper on a terrace lit by paper lanterns. Friends shared stories of early blunders. Tarek reenacted his first failed shield block. Lala roasted him with witty commentary. Idris cracked a grin so wide it startled him. Thora poured pomegranate juice, blessing the table. When laughter faded, Bashir lifted his cup once more. "To the strength found in choosing hope." All echoed the toast. Later, as lanterns dimmed, Sophia leaned on the balustrade, Arslan's arms around her from behind. Wind rustled palm leaves. Somewhere a nightjar called. She rested hands over his. "Do you ever worry peace won't last?" she asked softly. "I worry," he admitted. "But every dawn we greet together proves fear wrong." He whispered against her hair. "And if storms rise again, we weather them side by side." She turned in his embrace, finding his mouth in a slow kiss that tasted of honeyed pomegranate. Asena's purr vibrated through her chest. Arslan's wolf matched it with a deep hum. 2 heartbeats synced in unwavering cadence. They separated only when Thora's voice floated up from below. "Get some sleep, pups. Tomorrow waits." Sophia laughed against Arslan's shoulder. "Yes, elder." They walked to their chambers through torchlit halls, fingers interlaced. At the door, Sophia paused. "One more thing," she said, pulling a folded parchment from her sash. "I drafted plans for a joint academy. Magic for wolves and strategy for mages. Bashir thinks it mad." Arslan scanned the sketch, eyes bright. "It's brilliant. We'll build it where the desert meets the forest so both lands nurture it." She tucked the parchment back. Then it settled. Inside, moonlight spilled through latticework. They undressed in quiet intimacy, gentle touches mapping familiar paths. No haste, only reverence for shared breath. Wolves settled into companionable silence, allowing humans their moments. Later, wrapped in linen, Sophia lay with head on Arslan's chest, tracing the slow rise and fall. "I used to dream of escape," she whispered. "Now I dream of mornings." "Tomorrow's morning," he said drowsily, "we'll start with peach pastries. I'll forgive the olives." He laughed, low and content. Outside, dawn's first light painted the sky pale gold. Asena murmured, "Sleep now. Real queens need rest." Sophia closed her eyes, heart echoing with gratitude. Fire and moonlight had woven threads into a single tapestry, strong enough to shield a kingdom, gentle enough to cradle whispered hopes. Together, They drifted into dreams, not of loss or longing, but of fields unscarred, children's laughter, and the steady promise of a love that would guide two worlds into the light. Sophia's fingertip traced the slow rise and fall of Arslan's chest, following the quiet rhythm that soothed her heartbeat into the same gentle pace. Linen sheets lay soft against her skin, holding the warmth they'd shared through the small hours while moonlight drew silver bars across the lattice and spilled over them. They had talked, laughed, dozed, talked again, every word a thread weaving trust where fear once lived. Now only the hush of pre-dawn lingered, broken by their occasional breaths of wonder, as though neither could entirely believe the peace they'd found. Arslan lifted his hand and cupped hers where it rested over his heart. "You never seemed fragile," he murmured. His voice carried the low gravel that appeared whenever fatigue met relief. "But feeling you here like this, steady and calm, I understand how much weight you carried alone." She turned her face so her lips brushed the inside of his wrist. "And I finally understand what it is to set that weight down." She shifted until her chin propped lightly on his sternum, green eyes studying him in the blue haze of fading moonlight. "I used to rehearse escape plans, how to slip through gates, how to outrun people stronger than me. Tonight I keep rehearsing tomorrow morning instead." He smiled, lines at the corners of his eyes deepening. "With peach pastries and banished olives," she whispered. They shared a quiet chuckle, and the sound traveled the short distance between their hearts like a promise that laughter would never again be a stranger here. Sophia's free hand found a lock of his night-tousled hair and brushed it back. Asena's presence glowed just behind her thoughts, tender and protective. "He loves you wholly," Asena murmured, her tone soft and certain. "Feel how his heart steadies under your palm? He is no longer haunted." Arslan's golden eyes softened even further. "May I tell you something I never spoke to anyone?" he asked. "Not even Bashir." "Anything," she said. She lifted herself onto an elbow so she could listen with her whole focus. "When I held my first mate as she died," he began, gaze drifting to a memory she could feel pulsing in the air. "Part of me believed the goddess had taken her to punish my pride. Every choice since then was shaped by that guilt. Every victory felt hollow because she was not there to share it." His voice turned ragged on the edges. "But lying here, I realize I punished myself more than fate ever could. Loving again feels like walking into sunlight after years locked in a vault." Sophia ran her knuckles over his cheek. "Sunlight doesn't erase shadows. It just shows us colors we forgot existed." She swallowed. "I'm sorry she had to go for us to find each other, but I promise to treasure what her memory taught you: strength, patience, devotion." Arslan closed his eyes, absorbing her words as though they carried healing. When he opened them again, the golden hue had deepened, flecks glowing like embers. His wolf's voice resonated through the bond, low and reverent. "The time for fear is over, my friend. Claim the dawn." Sophia felt Asena respond in gentle agreement. "Let them see their hearts," she urged. Sophia leaned in, pressing a light kiss to the scar along Arslan's jaw, tracing it with her lips as if to erase lingering pain. He turned, meeting her mouth in a kiss that was still careful, still slow, but brimmed with expanding warmth. Their lips moved as though tasting the shape of forever, a dance of breath and forgiveness and rising devotion. Every pause was a question. "Do you wish this?" And every renewed touch replied, "Yes," freely, joyfully. She shifted to drape partly across him, feeling his heartbeat answer her own. His palm smoothed over the curve of her shoulder, and she felt him marvel at the fact that she was truly there, alive and willing to share the spaces he had long kept sealed. For long moments they explored gentle touches, her tracing the strong lines of his arms, him memorizing the path of her spine. Never hurried, always listening for the catch of breath that meant pause, or the sigh that invited more. When his lips paused over the hollow of her throat, he whispered, "I feel our wolves circling one another, asking if they may bind us." He drew back enough to meet her gaze. Mate marks are forever. I won't take that step on instinct or ritual. I want it because we choose it. Her chest tightened with emotion so intense it almost hurt. She sat up, sheets pooling at her waist, and placed her hand over his heart again. I choose you, Arslan. Not because the moon commands it, or a legend inscribes it. Because each day with you already feels like home. He sat too, kneeling before her, reverence softening every line of his posture. Dawn's earliest light slipped through the lattice, gilding the copper strands of his hair. Then may I mark you, Sophia of the Magic Pack, not as an alpha's possession, but as a partner whose strength equals mine. Tears threatened, but they were warm, sweet. And may I mark you, she answered, voice shaking but strong, as the other half of my dawn. They faced each other in the quiet. Asena guided her with silent confidence. Place your hand where you feel his heart loudest. Sophia flattened her palm over his left pectoral, just above the steady thrum. Arslan mirrored the gesture, his hand warm over the point where her heartbeat tapped eager reply. A hush fell inside them and around them, wolves stilled, as though kneeling in a sacred grove. Sophia closed her eyes and breathed into her chest. Light, subtle at first, gathered around her fingertips, silver threads weaving between her pulse and his through their touching palms. She felt a soft pull, then a bloom of heat that was not fire yet radiated like it. Arslan inhaled sharply. A golden glow sparked where his hand met her skin, twining with her silver. Energy spiraled through their bodies, steady rather than fierce, wrapping around their ribs, brushing along their spines, threading into minds where wolves waited with open souls. Sophia felt Asena's joy tangle with Arslan's wolf's deep rumble, two voices harmonizing into a single chord of belonging that echoed in her blood. Then came the mark itself, a subtle sigil glowing on each of their necks, shaped like crescent moons interlaced with the silhouette of twin wolves. Heat lingered only a heartbeat, then settled cold as ink, but vibrant as if fresh drawn. Sophia gasped at the tenderness of it, at the certainty that blossomed inside her sternum. Arslan's gaze shimmered. I feel you, he breathed. I feel you, she answered, and the phrase tasted like new truth. Their wolves spoke aloud in perfect unison, though no other ears could hear, bound by choice, guarded by love, bright as dawn, deep as dusk. A hush, like the still center of a storm, enveloped them. When it passed, they were the same, and yet more. Twined lines of energy singing quietly in their shared pulse. No words were needed for a time. They slid back beneath the linens, facing one another. She traced the new mark on his chest. He mapped it on hers, fingers reverent. Their kisses deepened again. But where there had been caution, there was now serenity. It was still slow, still respectful, but with a certainty that no fear could break what they had bound. Passion grew, layered with laughter when her stomach growled, or when he whispered a joke about peach pastries as incentive to survive the rest of Dawn's council. Eventually they settled, limbs tangled. The first full rays of sun painted the room gold. Through the balcony doors, a faint breeze carried the scent of baking bread and flowering citrus. Sophia smiled into Arslan's neck. You realize, she murmured, that saying mate in public will make Bashir cry. He will deny tears, blame desert dust, Arslan replied. But yes, and Idris might finally smile without hiding it behind that beard. She chuckled, then sobered with a soft sigh. I never thought I could feel like this. Whole, chosen, safe. You give me the same, he said, brushing his lips along her hairline. She settled her ear over his heart, listening to the new undertone within each beat. Hers, his, theirs. Asena sprawled inside her mind with a sleepy yawn. Happiness tastes like warm sand and cool moonlit water, she murmured. His wolf answered, Rest now, little star. The sky keeps watch. The world outside their door moved. Servants' distant chatter, the footfalls of guards changing shift, Tarek's unmistakable laugh echoing down a hallway. All of it hummed beneath the steady quiet they held between them. Sophia breathed it in and let it out in a long, peaceful sigh. "Do you want to sleep?" Arslan asked, thumb brushing her forearm. "For a moment," she admitted, "just until the pastries arrive." He smiled and tugged the linens higher. There, in the cradle of dawn, they rested, not from weariness, but because rest had become an act of trust, one they now shared without fear of abandonment. And as Sophia drifted, she felt the new mark warm once more, pulsing in gentle rhythm with the heart that beat beneath her cheek, singing welcome to every morning yet to come. Sunlight eventually pried Sophia and Arslan from their warm tangle of sheets. When they rose, the mark on her chest tingled as linen brushed it, an intimate reminder that the line between her heartbeat and his no longer existed. Arslan tugged on loose trousers and laughed when her stomach rumbled. "Summoning breakfast seems urgent," he teased. "Blame Bashir's pastries, not me," she replied, draping a light robe around her shoulders. "I have critical research to conduct on whether they actually taste better after life-changing soulmate bonding." He opened the door, eyes still soft in that new way they had discovered. Tarek waited outside with a tray, flatbread, peach pastries glazed in syrup, 2 steaming cups of coffee. He saluted, attempting a formal expression, but the grin beneath his straight face betrayed delight. "Captain Idris sends fortifying rations," Tarek announced, "and Bashir claims he fought 3 palace cooks at dawn for the last of the peaches." Arslan accepted the tray. "Let's hope Idris defended the pantry." Tarek's gaze flicked to their twin robes, to Sophia's shining eyes, then to the faint glow under Arslan's collarbones where his mark hid. The young warrior's grin widened. "Rumor already outran me, so I'll just say congratulations." He stepped back. "The council assembles in 2 hours for the oath ceremony. Bashir asked me to remind you gently." He winked and disappeared. They sat cross-legged on the bed to eat. Sophia bit into a pastry. Syrup dribbled down her thumb. "Worth it," she declared, licking the sweet and laughing. Arslan sipped coffee, eyes never leaving her. "Seeing you laugh like this makes every scar honorable." She brushed crumbs from his lower lip. "We'll collect new scars, but they'll be shared." Asena's sleepy voice hummed. "If these pastries vanish daily, remind Arslan's cooks I expect a tribute box labeled to the Queen's wolf." Arslan choked on a laugh as Sophia relayed the demand. An hour later, Sophia dressed in an ivory tunic stitched with tiny silver moons, belted with sapphire silk. Arslan donned a charcoal jacket with wolf head clasps. They stepped into the corridor, fingers brushing but not clasping yet, enjoying the electric anticipation of presenting themselves as newly marked mates. Bashir met them halfway down the hall. His eyes shone suspiciously bright, and he coughed gruffly before speaking. "Reports indicate palace morale is at an unprecedented peak. Also, congratulations." He sniffed and looked ceiling-ward as if locating a draft. Sophia smiled gently. "Dust, Bashir?" "Evidently." He straightened. "Council awaits your entrance." The meeting hall bustled with envoys and pack representatives. Scribes dipped quills, and the stained glass windows scattered morning light across polished tables. When Sophia and Arslan entered side by side, conversation hushed, replaced by the collective sigh of acceptance that rippled like wind through wheat. Captain Idris stood near the dais, one arm in a fresh sling. Cracked elbow from last night's fray, he had insisted was barely a bruise. Lala and Tarek flanked him, both in crisp uniforms, pride written from head to toe. Aliyah emerged from the Harem section wearing aquamarine silk. She bowed gracefully, her wolf's presence behind her eyes shining in quiet devotion. Arslan raised their joined hands. Soft gasps greeted the twin sigils glowing faintly at their chests, before fading beneath clothing. "The bond you see was forged by choice and trust," he said. "We stand stronger together than either kingdom alone." Sophia added, Our future begins with the promise that North and South will share libraries, patrols, and schools, so children grow up knowing cooperation, not suspicion. The stout envoy from Howling Fur Pack stepped forward, shoulders squared. Words spoken in peace carry weight, but deeds root them. She drew a ceremonial dagger, flipped it so the hilt pointed toward Sophia. Our pack extends alliance. Sophia accepted, touched by the symbolic surrender of distrust. One by one, envoys repeated the gesture, a curved bone knife from the Ice Hollow, a bronze torque from the Red Dune Pack, a carved horn whistle from Fog Valley. The dais collected pledges like seeds for a harvest. Bashir's quill danced over parchment recording every vow. When the last envoy stepped back, Idris saluted. Training rosters will integrate by week's end. Lala nudged Tarek. Hope you're ready for partner drills with desert wolves. Tarek winked. I like a challenge that doesn't end with my spear snapped. Sophia's laughter joined others, the hall bright with relief. After council adjourned, Arslan guided Sophia through courtyard paths freshly swept of last night's debris. Gardeners replanted singed shrubbery, and new rose bushes dotted soil once trampled in battle. At a shaded bench beneath flowering acacias, Thora waded knitting gold thread into white wool. Elder. Sophia bent to kiss her cheek. Thora patted her hand. The tapestry strengthens, she said, indicating intricate stitches. Each thread was once fragile alone. She squeezed their marked wrists. Remember, weaving never ends. They promised to visit again and wandered toward the outer wall where a new building site stood roped off. Blueprints lay pinned under stones on a table. Sophia's academy draft enlarged by palace architects. Arslan traced a line that would become an archway. Classrooms here, training rings there, library at the center. And a rooftop observatory, Sophia added. So pups can watch meteor showers and dream bigger than borders. Bashir approached with 2 rolled scrolls. Financial projections, he said. But I believe donors will be generous with hope running high. Sophia unrolled the top sheet. Signatures already filled sponsor lines. Envoys, merchants, even distant trade barons. Emotion welled. Thank you. That gratitude belongs to your vision, Bashir replied softly. Noon heat glimmered over sandstone when servants called them back for lunch. A bustling affair in the grand hall, less formal than the feast, yet hearty. Large platters of grilled vegetables, couscous studded with dried fruit, and platters of pomegranate kernels circled. Arslan piled Sophia's plate with bright colors, resisting her protest that she could serve herself. Luna needs strength to outspar Tarek, he teased. Asena's laughter rolled inside her. Remind the Alpha Peaches build muscle. When Aliyah scolded Tarek for juggling stuffed grape leaves, Sophia felt a wave of affection for each quirky alliance now blossoming under the roof. Even guards who once scowled at northern accents now swapped recipes with servants from Frost Valleys. Afternoon waned. Sophia slipped away to the quiet pool of the women's baths. Steam curled, carrying mint and eucalyptus. Aliyah soon joined, lowering herself into warm water with a sigh. I thought I'd drown in worry last night, she confessed. Now the water feels light as snowflakes. Sophia drifted weightless. Because we've chosen trust. Aliyah smiled softly. Long may that choice guide us. At twilight, Sophia and Arslan met Idris, Bashir, Tarek, and Lala atop the western rampart, where finishing touches were placed on new banners. Together they pulled ropes that unfurled a long standard of silver moons entwined with twin wolves against a field of midnight blue. Applause rose from below. Sophia's throat tightened as she watched wind catch the fabric, symbol of a union larger than 2 hearts. Night settled. Lanterns flickered along corridors as servants retired. Arslan found Sophia at their balcony watching constellations emerge. He wrapped arms around her. Children of both realms will know these stars without walls. A flush warmed her cheeks at the mention of children. One day, she said, turning in his arms, when peace has deeper roots. Roots grow under watchful hearts. He rested a large hand over her new mark. She mirrored the gesture. Every pulse promised tomorrow. Asina's gentle comment drifted between their minds. I hope future pups inherit our appetite. I fancy a house that smells forever of peach pastries. Arslan's wolf rumbled amusement, and olives, he teased, provoking Asina's mock groan. They stayed until crickets hushed and only the hush of their breathing filled the night. When cool wind teased Sophia's hair, Arslan led her downstairs. They walked out to the silent central courtyard, lanternless under bright stars. Stone still radiated day heat. He took her to the exact spot where Zara's flames had almost brought destruction. This ground remembers fear, he said, pressing her hand to the warm stone. Then he raised her fingertips to his lips. Now it will remember mercy. She drew a slow breath. Let's rewrite every scar in the kingdom like that. Turn them into lessons, not weapons. Together, he agreed. They returned to their room. Inside, a small box waited on the table, polished cherry wood bound by a silver clasp. Sophia lifted the lid. A pair of rings nested on silk, simple bands of platinum etched inside with a crescent wolf sigil. A note rested beneath in Bashir's tidy script. Asterisk. For moments you choose to show the world what the marks in your hearts already proclaim. Arslan slid one ring onto her finger. Physical reminders for days we travel apart. She placed its twin on his hand beside the mark. The world will see unity no matter distance. They settled onto cushions before the open balcony doors, watching stars. Concern flickered across Arslan's face. Do you miss anything from the time before all this? She considered the nights alone, the cold barns, the silent hunger for a wolf's voice. I miss nothing, she said. But I carry everything. Every bruise, every lonely dawn. It shaped the strength that let me stand with you. He touched her cheek, reverent. And now? Now I look forward to dawn, not to flee, but because you'll be there. They lay down side by side, faces turned to the sky. Owls called across the gardens. The palace, though vast, felt intimate, heartbeats echoing against ancient stone. Dawn's first glow painted low clouds rose gold. Sophia exhaled. Light's coming. Arslan reached for her hand. We greeted together. They rose, stepping onto the balcony as sun breached the horizon. Warm light slid over battlements, igniting the new banner until it appeared aflame. Below, the city stirred. Merchants lifting stall shutters, children chasing pigeons, guards greeting one another with fresh camaraderie. Life began again, renewed. Arslan kissed Sophia softly. No haste, no fear, just truth. When they parted, he whispered, we walked through fire and frost to find each other. She rested her forehead to his. Now, side by side, we faced the light. They turned toward the awakening world, hands clasped, hearts still humming with the echo of silver and gold, two wolves forever entwined under one rising sun.